memory, maybe instinct. Maybe they're coming for us.
And welcome to the Mind Your Movies podcast. We're coming for you in this episode.
I'm, Hopefully, we're not coming for anyone. Jesus Christ.
I'm Ryan,
I'm Shane.
and today we're talking remakes. We're looking at the Insomnia, Christopher Nolan's Insomnia remake from 2002, and Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake from 2004.
Yep.
Nice, that'd be embarrassing. Uh, yeah, so
Yeah, very exciting. Two pretty different types of remakes, I think. Uh, and yeah, I mean, we are going to get into spoilers for both those movies and probably spoilers for the originals that they are remakes of. So if you haven't seen the original Dawn of the Dead or the original Insomnia, we're probably going to do some comparison. So fair warning for the rest of the episode.
yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, it's really hard to talk about like remakes of movies as a whole, like without talking about how well they take inspiration or reinvent or do things that are creative while still relying on that source material. So, I mean, I think it'd be almost impossible for us to have gone into this without expecting to spoil those.
Yeah. And it's kind of the give and take of remakes. Like you get the benefit of people knowing, oh, I recognize that, but also people are going to inevitably compare the remake to the original. So it's kind of a
Yeah,
double-edged sword.
it would be interesting to have done like remakes of movies we haven't seen. Like just
That would
go
work.
in not knowing anything about the originals and see what we think about new movie remake movies or
I could
something.
have done that with Insomnia because I had actually seen the Nolan, but I had not seen the original. So that was part of the reason I picked the Nolan remake because I was like, oh, this is a good excuse to watch the original. Um, but yeah, probably The Thing would be a great pick for that. I've never seen the original Thing from Another World or whatever.
Yeah, same. That
Or
could
The
be
Fly,
maybe.
actually. I've never seen the original
Ooh,
Fly either.
yeah. I think that era of remakes kind of has a lot of because it's pulling off inspiration from like those. I think those might both be 1950s movies, right? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of those 1950s things had like really cool ideas, but not necessarily the know-how or just technology to make that stuff happen, you know?
Yeah. Invasion of the Body Snatchers too.
Yeah.
Another good one. So yeah, definitely that would be an interesting topic. But that's not what we're doing. We're just doing remakes in general.
We're already
So
rambling. Yeah.
we're rambling. That's all right. It's good to ramble. That's all what a podcast is. It's just rambling.
That's right.
Rambling and yapping. But anyway, if you've never seen our show or heard it, we before we get into the main movies we're going to talk about, we give some recommendations and a little discussion about some things we've seen recently. So I don't know if you have something ready to go, Ryan. If not, I can start.
I can jump in real quick with a new movie that's still in theaters, Fight Fight or Flight, which is
Nice. I
yeah,
actually wanted to see this.
there we go. It's again Josh Hartnett. He is still back. He's fresh from Trap last year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, there you
Heart
go.
Renaissance.
That that's right. That's right. Um, and it was pretty good. There's some competing kind of like storylines going on. I think. I mean, it's one overarching storyline, but there's the stuff happening. If you don't know, this is essentially Josh Hartnett on a plane full of assassins. That's like the main idea. And there's the stuff happening on the plane, and then there's stuff happening not on the plane. Like people, he's talking to people and whatnot, and that stuff kind of I didn't like at all. But but the
You
stuff
would
on
have
the
liked if it
plane,
just was bottled in on the plane.
yeah, and I'm really disappointed it wasn't, but it didn't hurt my enjoyment of the movie too much. The movie was still pretty awesome, and
Nice.
I mean, if you haven't seen the trailer, go in without even seeing the trailer, just because it's like a ton of fun. Like all the stuff on the plane is just like banger after banger after banger. And then you just snooze a little bit when they, you know, uh, cut to someplace else. But
There you go.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely wanted to see this. Hartnett won me over with Trap, and I'm all in on the Heart Renaissance. So, which I am also calling it the Heart Renaissance after the McConaissance. and no one will make me change it, even though it makes no sense and doesn't. It's not a good portmanteau at all. But
I think it's going to be a thing now. Yeah, you said it, and it's going to
I'm
take
really
off.
I, I'm a real influencer, a real taste maker in our culture. You know what I mean? So if I say it everyone's gonna be saying it soon enough.
We got to go back and edit our trap review on Letterbox and just make sure we include the beginning of the Heart Renaissance.
Yeah, Art Renaissance Origins.
Mm.
All right,
Anyways,
cool.
what do you got for us, Shane?
I don't know where I should start. I watched a short film on YouTube. Uh, New Connor O'Malley short film on YouTube. It's 5 minutes long. It's called Slugs. It's hilarious. It's also like fucked up and awesome. And uh, I don't want to tell you too much about it, but it's sort of it's only 5 minutes, so it's like I can't. I mean, I don't want to spoil a 5 minute thing. Uh, but yeah, it's sort of a parody or satire of the, I would say, like the Sigma grind set type of mentality that you see online. Um, there's almost a little bit of Drive, a little bit of Taxi Driver, but sort of a parody of like the people that watch Drive and are like, this guy's awesome. I'm him for real. Like he's me for real. Or the people who think Patrick Bateman is cool and someone to aspire to be. This is definitely a parody of those people, and it's absolutely hilarious and really good. Um, it's called Slugs. It's on YouTube, and I don't even want to tell you anything more than that, other than just highly recommend it and tell people to go watch it because it's only 5 minutes long, and it's actually like really well shot and very cool. So I recommend.
Best thing about YouTube, you don't even need a subscription.
Yeah.
I can go on there and spend 5 minutes and watch this right after this. And you know
Yep.
what? I probably will.
And you can log it on your letterbox.
There we there we go. Yes, get those logs up. If you haven't hit 200 movies this year yet, what are you doing?
Watch Slugs over and over. Just put it on repeat over and
Yeah.
over.
Uh,
Yeah.
nice. That sounds pretty cool. I appreciate you trying not to spoil it. And I look forward to it. I mean, 5 minutes is, I can give up 5 minutes of my day for a good Shane recommendation any day.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate
um,
it.
so I think one of the difficult things for me this week, so I was actually traveling for a lot of this week, but also we had 4 movies to get to. So um,
Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of extra stuff in.
That's all right.
I watched Fight or Flight, and I wouldn't normally say this on here probably, but I'll mention one more, which is She's the Man.
Ah, classic.
Yeah, which is, yeah, 2006 kind of uh classic
This was like
rom-com.
a TV cable, like I feel like this was like ABC Family. It was on all the time or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I had like vague memories of this one, and I ended up watching it again. It was on the background actually as I was packing for my trip, so
Oh,
I
there you
like
go.
half watched it. And I'm gonna be honest, I would so uh Amanda Bynes uh dresses up like her twin brother in this to like go and play soccer and show people that she can do it, you
Yeah.
know? And every like 5-10 minutes of this movie, I thought it was gonna get gay. She's dressed as a guy, and Channing Tatum is her roommate, and that's
Oh
where the rom-com
yeah.
stuff is happening. So it's like, oh no, no, oh no.
Right. When's he gonna
And
find out that he can bang her?
yep. And it never really gets there, but it was still pretty good. I mean, I don't know. I remember this from back in the day, like vaguely, and I don't know. It's fine, I guess. Again, I don't think I'd particularly recommend like going out of your way to watch it, but you know what? If it's on ABC Family and you somehow still have cable, throw it on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was definitely, from what I remember, it was more of a girls are humans and can do things
Yeah,
vibe, which was more like 2006. Whereas now it's more uh, be any gender, any, you know, it's kind of its time. The
right.
times have changed a little bit with gender of, but this is very more binary concept.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
yeah.
yeah, I mean it's still fine. I think it does still have like a cult following. I was surprised on Letterbox for this movie. There's a huge jump at 5 stars. Um,
Mm.
which means I think there's probably a pretty strong cult following for this, which I could see like people just like to rewatch it or something, you know.
Comfort movie, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And like childhood favorites, I feel like often people are like 5 stars for the uh I don't even know what a good example is for Cat in the Hat because I liked it as a kid or something like that. I don't
Yeah. I you know what? I've done it for
know.
Scooby-Doo. The live action Scooby-Doo's. I think I have them both as 5 stars.
There you go. You're part of the problem. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, those
Oh,
movies I remember
proudly.
being pretty good. I liked those as a kid, but I haven't seen them since. Um, all right, but I did watch Color Out of Space, Nicolas Cage, H.P. Lovecraft movie. And I kind of, for some reason, had kind of high expectations for the movie, and I was a little bit let down. It wasn't quite as good as I had hoped. Um, Mainly this, like, I don't know. I watched this. I should have written more notes or something for this movie because it was like 2 weeks ago now, so I don't even remember it that clearly. But I do remember it pretty clearly, but I it's harder to put it into words. But I just feel like the acting and the writing and everything was not its strong suit, and there was a little too much of it. I don't remember exactly what the runtime is. I don't think it's super long, but yeah, it's an hour 50 minutes. But I remember there being really cool elements to it, and actually, it was more like disturbing and messed up than I anticipated going into it. So I don't know. The tone was a little bit weird. Good Cage performance, but it was kind of a mixed bag for me. But cool effects, good Cage performance, solid movie. But I was kind of hoping, I was like, oh, I hope I love this, and I didn't quite love
Dang. I think I might be the problem here, to be honest. I
it.
think I remember really liking this movie and probably recommended it to you a couple times over the past few years. Um, but I can definitely see. I mean, I like look at it's been a long time, but looking back, I think the things I really enjoyed out of it are probably the things you enjoyed about it too. And I probably was able to, uh, at least today, I'm able to put aside all that other stuff in my head, like the writing and stuff. But
Yeah, that
who
makes
needs
sense.
writing in a movie? You know, I'm
And
watching it.
expectations might have something to do with it too, where if you watch this movie out of the blue, you'd be like, oh wow, this is actually like cool, really cool effects and kind of a unique story and it goes in places you wouldn't expect. But if you expect it to be like an upper tier Nick Cage movie or like a really cool horror movie, now your expectations have changed your perception in some ways.
Right, which is kind of a funny thing because I think I did go into it with like no expectations. I think I might have like found it on Shutter way back in the day. Way back in the day, I don't know. It's only been out for a few years.
I think it's like
um,
2019 or 2018 maybe. Yeah,
oh
19.
God, that's
That was
crazy.
6 years
That's
ago.
6 years. Anyways, and then when I watched it, uh, I probably really enjoyed. I mean, I remember being shocked by there's one effect particularly that I remember thinking of like the thing, right? Like just a really cool pile. Well, whatever, cool effect,
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I remember a couple of other things I thought were pretty cool, but uh being so surprised by it, I was probably like recommending it left and right and probably still have been. Um but then it gets the people around you hyped for it. And then they go into it with a totally different expectation than you did. So like you're saying, right, that can
Yeah.
definitely have an effect. But
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, all right, I'll run through a couple other things quickly. I've seen all the Alien movies. I've seen all the Predator movies. I've never seen Alien versus Predator or Alien versus Predator Requiem. So I watched Alien versus Predator, and it was actually solid. I liked it. See, this is a case where I had low expectations, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was actually solid. So I gave this and Color Out of Space 3 stars, both of them. But my mind is like, oh, this one was not a little disappointing. This one was a little a pleasant surprise. But in reality, like Color Out of Space is probably a better movie than Alien versus Predator. But there's the expectations thing. But yeah, I kind of expected it to be bad and cheap and cheesy, and it kind of is those things sometimes, but also there are cool effects and It's pretty well paced, it keeps your attention, and it's just like a solid like throw it on lazy Sunday afternoon type thing. It's a rainy day, you're tired, you're hungover, you put it on, you're laying on the couch, and you're like, oh, nice. So that's the type of vibe. I still haven't seen Requiem, which is the one that has absolutely horrible reviews. Everyone hates it, says it's terrible. So I'll probably watch that at some point.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where like there's only two of them. So you kind of might as well watch them both. Even if you
Yeah.
know that one of them's gonna stink, you know?
And I've seen all the Alien and Predator movies, and they have there's the Predator like animated thing coming to Hulu soon, and there's the new Predator movie coming out, I think in November. So I kind of wanted to watch these before those come out. Um, so yeah, that was that. Another thing I watched was a little 40-minute documentary. It's on Tubi actually. It's about John Cazale, the actor who was in five of like the greatest movies ever made, and that literally those are the only movies he was ever in. And then he died of cancer when he was 43, I think, 42, 43. And really solid documentary. If you like movies, it's totally worth watching. Uh, yeah, I mean, he's in the first two Godfathers, The Conversation, The Deer Hunter, and Dog Day Afternoon, and he did like plays and stuff in New York too. But yeah, John Cazale, iconic filmography, iconic actor, and it was a solid documentary. It's not like it's gonna knock your socks off, but it's an easy watch. And the final thing I'll recommend is Blue Steel, Catherine Bigelow cop thriller. It was good. It gets kind of silly at certain points, but definitely interesting in her career. It's about Jamie Lee Curtis is a rookie female cop, and on her first day on the job, there's a grocery store robbery, and she shoots the guy. He has a gun, and he is pointing it at her. Shoots him, kills him, and then one of I wouldn't say this is spoiling anything, but one of the people in the grocery store steals the gun, and now no one can find the gun. People think she killed an unarmed man. And we sort of follow the person who takes the gun and her, and things escalate. It goes crazy, and yeah, it's definitely a solid cop thriller with some interesting themes about gender and power and guns as penises. So yeah,
Oh, nice. Nice.
yeah, solid movie. It's on the Criterion Channel if anyone wants to watch it.
Very nice. Sounds
So there you
cool.
go. I also watched Baby Girl the other day. I don't know why I did it. I didn't even want to watch this movie, and I watched it, and it was okay. I don't have much to say about it.
Well, there we go.
Did you see
Um,
Baby Girl?
no, I actually heard good things from a few people, but I wasn't particularly interested, I think.
Yeah, it did not seem up my alley at all. I wasn't gonna watch it, and it's on Max. It was sitting there for free. I was like, I'll just throw this on, and I was like, yeah, it makes sense. This is not. I'm not the target audience for this. It wasn't a, it wasn't terrible in any way, but it didn't really connect with me. So yeah,
I mean, hey, if you're paying for Max, you got to watch everything that's on there.
Well, I almost watched Y2K. I kind of that was another one where, yeah. What did you have you seen Y2K?
No, I almost saw it in theaters though, but it's funny because now that it's not in theaters, I didn't know it was on Max. I might watch it, but now that it's not in theaters, I'm like less inclined to go see it because it's like the theaters are essentially streaming for me. You know, it's like with
Yeah,
the AMC pass, but then when it's off streaming, it's like I'm not gonna rent it, and I don't particularly care enough to go find it streaming. You know, like but knowing that it's on a streaming service that I currently subscribe to, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll throw it on while I'm doing
yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly. And maybe you can be my taste tester for Y2K,
There
and
we
if you
go.
like it, then I'll be like, all right, I'll watch it. But I kind of thought it looked good, and then it got like pretty bad reviews, and I was like, I don't know.
That's exactly what happened to me, and
Yeah,
that's part of why I didn't end up seeing it in theaters too. Is like, uh, but hey, you know what? Sometimes that stuff can still surprise you. You know.
it's true. It's true. I mean, I guess should we get into our insomnia discussion?
Yeah, I guess if we have to.
Ryan's gonna go to sleep, cure his insomnia. So yeah, I mean the episode is Insomnion of the Dead, if we didn't say that already. So first up is Insomnia. I guess I picked this. Sorry about that, Ryan. But
They're
yeah.
not all winners, Shane. They're not all winners.
So technically, the movie for the episode is the 2002 remake. Obviously, we'll be referencing the original a lot. But yeah, 2002, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Hilary Seitz, which obviously it's adapted from the original movie, and it's shot by Wally Pfister. And I will say the cinematography in this movie very solid, very well, whatever. Well, it's quite different from the original, and I don't know if it necessarily is better than the original, but I like the way this movie looks. A lot of nice shots of sort of the Pacific Northwest, you know. Um, but yeah, Al Pacino plays Will Dormer, who is a cop from LA, and he's flying into Alaska to investigate a murder. And uh, there's Martin Donovan plays Hap Eckhart, who's his partner. Hilary Swank is Ellie Burr, who's a police officer in Alaska, a local cop. And Robin Williams plays Walter Finch, who's a writer in the town. Uh, and yeah, it's a remake of a 1997 Norwegian movie, uh, directed by Eric Skolsgaard.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I just gave it a shot. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, like I said, I had never seen the original. I watched both within a couple days of each other, and I will say I definitely preferred the original. Uh, the remake definitely felt like sort of just a neutered, not as good version of the original. This kind of felt like an example of a remake that didn't really need to happen. It didn't feel like they didn't have like a different take on it, which we'll talk about Dawn of the Dead. They definitely did. That is quite different from the original. So, but this is the type of remake where I'm like, there's honestly, you just watch the original. You don't really have to watch the remake.
Yeah, and I think one thing that like really surprised me about this one is that it's longer than the original, and
Yep.
it
It's like
doesn't
30
feel.
minutes longer.
Yeah, and so this one's almost 2 hours. It's maybe like an hour 58,
So,
57, something like
yeah.
that. In the hour 50s, and the original's like hour 30 something. I mean, I'm gonna be biased, you know. I mean, I like that hour 30 range.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
If it
and
starts with a nine and it's two digits, Ryan is in.
that's right. That's right. Um, but it surprised me because it didn't really feel like it added anything. You know, I think at the end of the movie, I'm kind of sitting there like, okay, uh, I yeah, I just experienced a 30-minute longer, worse version of the movie.
Yeah.
And
One, oh,
yeah,
I was just going to say one thing they did add is at the beginning, they definitely add some character development for Eckhart, who is the partner. They all have different names in the original, but the main character's partner who, okay, obviously spoilers, we already gave the spoiler warning. The main character's partner who gets killed. In the original, we really don't get much of their relationship. There's just a little bit of it. Like when they're at the hotel, he kind of tries to flirt with the lady at the desk or whatever. Um, but they add in this element of Eckhart is gonna rat on Al Pacino, Will Dormer, for some kind of improper police work he did in LA. They kind of explain it, but I don't really remember. Um, and I don't really feel like it added that much to his character. They give him a family and a wife, which makes you feel like, oh man, sucks that that guy died, you know. But also all the internal affairs aspect of the story kind of just muddled things up. And to me, I kind of didn't I don't know, it felt very unnecessary to me. But
yeah,
yeah.
I felt the same way. I think the internal at first I was kind of intrigued, and I thought there would be a little bit more there, like what they were doing with it, but ultimately they for the beginning of the movie, it's like it's unclear exactly like how bad of a cop Al Pacino's character is. Like, what did he really do? Like, is he a bad enough cop that he would purposefully kill his partner to cover it up, right? And it also kind of muddles the guilt a little bit in like an interesting way at first, I thought, where like he feels guilty about this thing, but he also is kind of like, well, the problem's gone, you know?
Mm.
And he even says that though, which kind of uh, whatever.
There's a lot of characters saying
Yeah,
exactly what they're feeling, a lot of dialogue right on the nose.
which is totally well. So and just I mean, we're able to compare this to the original. The
Yeah,
original, there's very little dialogue. I mean, there's enough dialogue, but like compared to this, it feels like there's like no dialogue,
yeah.
and a lot of it is because you don't. The movie decides not to bother explaining how the characters are feeling and to show you how they're feeling by, in the original you get things like um the main character is like trying to cover, he's like taping down the shades of his room because it wants to show you that he's not able to sleep, instead of every time he talks to someone they're telling him, hey, you couldn't sleep again or something, like um and at one point he even puts he sacrifices his blanket to be able to put that over the window and stuff. And there's a lot more like showing and not telling in the original, and in this one it's like they're just force feed. They're here's the spoon. It's coming in like an airplane. Like open up and eat
Yeah.
the dialogue.
Yes. Do you remember, because you watched this a slightly the original slightly more recently than I did, the reason why Jonas has moved from Sweden to Norway in the original? Because
Ah,
there is an explanation.
there is, and it's something about uh something. I think he might have like slept with a witness or something.
Yes,
It's
that is
something
it.
like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yep, that was
Um,
it.
But yeah, actually, also a little bit of backstory on me watching these ones is I actually watched these back to back. And I think that made a big difference in my enjoyment here because they are like just similar enough where like you're like after you watch the first one, after I watched the first one, I was kind of longing to just watch, to either not watch the movie because I just watched the movie, or if I was going to watch the movie, to watch the first one, because this movie, it feels so similar in a lot of ways and just kind of worse in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
and I did find it ironic though that I watched both. I was just in Ireland for a few days, and in Ireland while I'm there, we're pretty close to the summer solstice right now, not too far away, and they're getting like 16 hours of sunlight.
Mhm.
It's like rose at like 5:30 in the morning and set at like 9:30 at night or something while we were there. And um leaving on the plane, I watched these on a plane. I don't, you know, not usually going to watch like movies I expect to be very good on a plane, but um you know, actually last movie I watched on a plane, sorry, side tangent, was
Okay.
Moonfall. That was the last one I
Wow.
watched on a plane. So very
Wow.
different experience here. Um but so I watched these on the plane coming home, and it was funny because like I remember getting back to the hotel at night and like it'd be like just past 10 o'clock and it's still like relatively light out. Like it's definitely like setting, but like, it's still bright. Like you're not going to bed. It's not like pitch black out. And we'd
Right.
get home from like a bar or something at like 10 o'clock and we were able to, like, you can walk anywhere just fine, like, and then you get waking up at like 5 o'clock from, the sun rising and stuff. So I would say that I was kind of, I I would not want to go to the midnight sun, like that. I could see even not killing your partner on accident, it would be a pretty stressful place to go visit. Uh,
Yeah. Interesting.
Anyways,
Yeah,
it's
I've
a little
never been
sidetrack.
anywhere with that much sunlight, but it's a really genius idea for a movie. This sort of a noir story with, but you invert it and now it's always daylight, and it's kind of driving our main character crazy. Really genius idea. And I think the cinematography in the original kind of emphasizes the brightness of everything. Like, I don't know how it was shot. I didn't do as much research on the original because technically we're talking about the remake, but I don't know. It has a little bit of a shoddier uh look to it, and like the whites get blown out pretty easily, like with the window and the lights coming in through the window. It's like very stark bright white, and it really worked, I think, to emphasize the brightness and how it could make him go crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the first one also, or the original, sorry, not the first one, the original, does a pretty good job of like making you feel like he's going crazy throughout much of the movie.
Oh
And
yeah.
in this and in the 2002 version, I feel like I was pretty let down by that. I feel like it's kind of like he looks a little tired, but like I look tired when I go to work too. And then at the end, he's like totally consumed by it and he's trying to drive. And I was like, oh, this is a big change. Like it felt like a very sudden change in that last like extra 15 or whatever minutes. Um,
Mm.
that wasn't really part of the original.
Yeah, I think there is something to like in the remake, there are scenes where like there's the discussion between Robin Williams and Al Pacino on the ferry, which is like a cool scene in
Yeah.
a bubble. It's a cool scene, but he seems very like lucid and like aware. And so it doesn't feel like a gradual descent into madness. It feels like randomly, oh, well, now he seems fine. And then now he's tired. And it's a little more, it's not as consistent. Whereas I feel like the original, he just is like it's a downward spiral and it's just straight down.
Yeah, I that's exactly how I felt too. And I was pretty surprised that like it you just I feel like you never like it spends so much time telling you everything that's happening in the movie and yet it never bothers to like show you the consequences of him actually being awake for 6 days or whatever they say it is, you know.
Yeah.
um which also again like another thing of just like telling you everything like in the original I don't think they ever mentioned like actually how many days it's been, which is kind of an interesting like you know you're blurring the lines of day and night and even just counting time, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, they just really like everything in the remake is kind of very easily laid out for you.
Yep. And it's very sanitized, which is a common thing with these Hollywood remakes of foreign movies. Of there are several examples of where in the original, like the Hollywood version has more of a moralistic stance, but also the main character is not allowed to be as fucked up as he is in the original. So, like for the examples are in the original, Jonas, played by Stellan Skarsgård, great performance, really great performance. He kills a dog, a stray dog, to plant the evidence to swap the bullets and plant the evidence in you know from the shooting. And in the remake, he just finds a dead dog in an alley. Why there's a dead dog in an alley for a couple days in this random Alaska town, who knows? But he finds a dog that's already dead. So the movie has to make it, well, the dog is already dead, so it's not as bad. Because when in the original, when he kills the dog, it's like, oh wow, that's fucked up. That's a horrible thing to do. Like, but in a lot of these Hollywood movies, they're like, well, we can't make the main character that bad. The audience isn't gonna like him. It's like, yeah, that's the point. We're not supposed to like this guy. This guy's going fucking crazy. Um, and there are also two instances of sexual assault in the first movie, and there's sort of like, I actually wasn't sure. I wanted to ask what you thought about it because when I was watching it, I was like, the first one, he takes one of the victim who's been murdered, her like best friend. It drives her out to the dump where her body was found to like ask her for information, and he like touches her sexually. But the way it was edited, I was like, is he imagining this or is this really happening? Did you have? How did you see that?
I definitely noted that as well in the original of like, is it is it supposed to be actually happening or not? And I don't know if I really have a good answer. Like I kind of chalked it up to like we are kind of experiencing that he's you know things are like blurring, right? Like reality is kind of blurring at this point. Um,
Right,
and I assume that it actually maybe did happen, but like maybe it was supposed to show that like he's not really in his right state of mind, so he's not really sure what's happening or something, you know.
right,
Um, but yeah, I don't know, maybe like maybe the idea is to blur those lines or just show you that like he's not fully cognizant anymore, right? Like he's losing it, you know.
right. Yeah, he is losing it, and maybe it is. I wasn't sure how it. I don't know. I think it was kind of left up to interpretation of whether is this what he's imagining or is he actually doing this? But even if he's just imagining it, that is a fucking like horrible thing to be imagining, obviously, with like uh and getting
Yeah,
he's
I
a
would say
fucking
it's pretty
horrible
bad.
guy.
Yeah.
He's a horrible guy. And then he
Yeah.
tries to have sex with the lady at the hotel and she like pushes him off of her and he's kind of I mean he doesn't like rape her, obviously, but like it's very I don't know, he's disgusted by himself kind of like, oh my God, like I'm not, and it's an uncomfortable scene.
Yeah.
Um, and those type of all that is taken out of the remake. And they do everything they can to redeem this character, which just goes against the point of the movie. And then the end of the movie, the
Oh
original,
God.
he gets away with it and he's like haunted and it has that image of his eyes, which is just creepy and like a really cool way to end a movie. Like, oh my God, that's fucked up. This guy gets away with it and he, like that's a crazy ending, very good ending. And then in this one, he has to die and tells her to tell the truth. Oh, tell them the truth, whatever. Don't compromise your integrity, kind of a thing. And it's like, so we're making him more of a hero, and it's just not like it kind of goes against the entire idea of the original movie that this is a descent into madness.
Yeah. The end of the movie is uh oh boy. I've got a lot to say about that.
Okay,
But real quick.
good last shot.
What was the last shot? I don't even remember, to be honest.
It's just like her like standing over his dead body,
Oh,
and it's like a wide shot. It's just kind of a nice shot.
oh yeah, yeah. The scenery is really nice.
Yes,
It is like actually in I'm pretty sure. I mean, it looks like it's actually in Alaska or
I,
northern Canada, maybe, but
I think they shot a lot of it in British Columbia.
okay.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry I cut you off. What were you gonna say?
No, you're good. Yeah. Um, but before the ending, yeah, like the the stuff about him like becoming more he's just more sanitized in the American version. And like even the effect of like in the I mean, you said those three events, I think pretty much in the order they happen in the original. And in the original, when he kills the dog, he like lays down like plastic bags. He's like he brings a dog treat like to lure it out, right? He's very calculated about it, right? Like he knows exactly what he's doing, and he kills it. He throws it in a dumpster, right? He knows what to do. And uh, in the in the car scene when he has the young lady with him, it's he's bringing her to the dump to like try to get her to tell him the name of the person that
She
Tanya
was.
was dating.
Yep.
You know, and he successfully scares her into doing that by bringing her to the location that the body was found. So there's like the rationale is like there for what he was doing for bringing her there, right? And and it's unclear at the end if like she's so shaken by being at that place where the body was found, or if it's because of the stuff that he was trying to do in the car, if that really happened, right? Again, it's kind of unclear if that really happens or not.
Mhm.
Um but either way, it's like a little bit less calculated than the thing before, right? And then the attack at the hotel, the you know,
Yeah.
is like totally. She's showing him like kittens, and like
Yeah.
he's seeing like the most adorable things in the world, baby cats, and he just attacks the lady
he
pretty much
he
out of
doesn't even
nowhere.
like kittens.
Like, what's
This
he
guy's
have?
awful. He doesn't even like kittens. He kills a dog. This guy's the worst.
Yeah. But so like the progression though, like you can really feel
Yes.
the progression in the things he does. Whereas in the American remake, he like shoots a dog, the dead dog, and later on, but then again later on, he's like meeting the guy on the ferry, and like you said, he has a very cognizant conversation with the guy, and pretty much like what he oh you know what he when he has the young lady in the car in the American version, he's like rushing at a truck. What do
He
you call
plays
it?
chicken with a truck.
Like a semi truck, right? Is that what they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might have like wood. like logs in the back, sort of Final Destination style.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, he's playing chicken with it. And she's like yelling at him not to or whatever, right? But like, what is,
If
yeah, it just
that
feels
felt totally ridiculous and like out of the blue. It didn't
right.
feel like a natural progression of his character. It just felt random.
Yeah. And it also didn't really feel like it was because he wasn't sleeping or had guilt or anything. It just kind of felt like he was being a moron.
Yeah.
Um, and that like didn't make a lot of sense. Like it didn't feel like you really were seeing him progress through this insomnia, right? Whereas in the original, it really did feel like that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And I think at the beginning of the movie, Al Pacino plays his character like maybe too cool. Like he always knows he has the right idea. This is like the genius cop. Oh, I'm always gonna make the right move. I hate the internal affairs, but he's a renegade cop, but he's always right. He always knows what to do. Like he plays it too cool. Whereas I feel like in the original, like when he's coming to this new country, he feels a little out of place. He feels he already like feels alone and isolated and sort of an outsider. And like you can see him going down this path. But the Pacino character is like this is like a cool guy in a cop movie. This doesn't feel like a guy who's on the brink, you know?
Right. And I think maybe like using the internal affairs stuff was supposed to maybe like replace that. Like he's stressed because of that stuff. But like that it's a much weaker character point than it seems at first, maybe, because at first I was like, okay, I'm interested to see if they like make that an interesting piece of what was happening in the movie. But then by playing it off as essentially the same movie, but with an added in piece, it didn't really feel like it helped.
Yeah. And the internal affairs thing, this also plays into the end of the movie, but I think it could have been more interesting if they have this idea, oh, the internal affairs thing, maybe he kills him on purpose. And then we make this character even more fucked up. And that's kind of interesting, but they can't do that because he's the main character and you gotta like him apparently in a Hollywood movie. So they add a thing that could actually make him even worse, but they pull back from it. So they're like it doesn't work at all. And it's clear that he doesn't mean to shoot him. It's clear that it's accidental. I actually think that scene was one of the better scenes in the movie. The chase in the fog and all that. I thought that was very well done. Um, but and then at the end of the movie, some of the worst dialogue, absolutely terrible. And Hilary Swank asks him, "Did you shoot him on purpose?" And instead of saying no, which is the truth, and he would obviously say, he says, like, "I don't even know anymore." He thinks I did it on purpose, so maybe I did. And it's like no one would ever, ever, ever say that. Like it was just terrible.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why I was so intrigued at first when they introduced the internal affairs stuff, because I knew he was going to shoot the guy. And I was
Right.
like, this could be interesting if they like make it like less obvious during the moment that it's on accident. And then the whole movie, you're kind of like, this guy's a terrible guy. Could he have done it on purpose? Right. And then at the end, when he's like, I don't even know, it's like maybe he actually does, like, we don't know, right? But no, we do know. We watched the thing
Yeah.
unfold and it's very obvious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
dumb.
and there almost could have been a cool like swapping of our protagonist where we're following him at the beginning and then he does it on purpose for actually we know it. And then we're sort of start following Hilary Swank and her investigation and it's sort of that cat and mouse mixed with his cat and mouse or thing with Robin Williams. That could have been cool, but the Hilary Swank character is very under I mean her analog in the original is also not a super important character, but I think the main character was so strong that the side characters didn't need to be as well developed. Whereas I think in this one, if the Hilary Swank character had a little it was a little better written, had a little more to do, maybe we she became more of a protagonist, it could have benefited the movie a lot.
I agree. And it they seem to have like higher hopes for her in this movie of being more interesting by making her have more background again with like she's a rookie cop here and she's like for some reason she like followed the main character Will
Yeah,
like
all
his
this crap. Oh,
career, like
yeah.
why, I don't know, but whatever. um
But that's the thing. They make Will Dormer almost like a cool, like he's famous. Like, oh man, he has fans. Like,
yeah.
it's
and
weird.
and it's not, i don't I don't know why he's not, he doesn't, we never get any evidence that he's like that he's an impactful cop. um
He's Al Pacino, I guess.
and
Did you see
uh
Heat? This is actually a sequel to Heat.
oh my goodness, wow.
No, no, it's not. It's not. That's
No,
a
nobody quote that. But so it's kind of like they have high hopes for her, almost, of like being the, she's like a rookie cop trying to learn from them and stuff. um and she has to kind of be a little more, she like tiptoes around her suspicions more than in the original, because in the original she's not a rookie, right? She's like a full-fledged officer or detective or whatever, and is already doing the investigation, is already suspicious. And so like I didn't know if they were trying to do something more interesting there, but I think it was really just to build up for the heroicness thing at the end, which oh geez.
Yeah.
I did not like the end of this movie.
No, me neither. Becomes sort of a an action scene. They're shooting. They have a shootout, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say. You either live, no, you either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And man, I wish we watched that movie. Um,
That is a much better Chris Nolan movie.
but the end of, yeah, the end of this movie. Well, first of all, before we even get there, I just want to point out uh, the main character's name is Will Dormer, um, which is like pretty much just means will sleep. Uh, Dormir, right, is like sleep in Spanish. Dormire is sleep in Latin. And dormitory, right? Like dorm just comes from the word for sleep. And the first name Will, I think, is just supposed to mean will, like I will, right? Like the verb thing.
We'll sleep.
And so I think it literally is just saying the whole movie, you know, that he's, you know, what he's going to do at the end of this movie. He will sleep. Um,
I don't
and
mind that. I don't.
I,
I think that's fine. I don't think that's that bad.
I kind of thought it was so dumb. In all fairness, I don't know what uh, Skarsgård's name, Stellan Skarsgård. Wow, Jesus Christ,
Stellan
Skarsgård's
Skarsgård.
name was in the original, so it
It's
could also, for all I know, like be the same thing, just in.
it's Jonas something. I don't remember
Yeah,
his last name off the top of my head, but it's Jonas is his first name.
but I was maybe it's just like a little on top of not liking the movie. I was kind of like, all right, you know what? But
His name in the original is Jonas Angstrom.
Angstrom, and I don't think that means sleep.
I don't know. It sounds like a Swedish name to me. I don't know what it means.
An angstrom is like a unit of something.
That could
No,
be
you know what?
named.
It's a distance. It's a unit of distance that's just very small. I think it's like a tenth of a nanometer,
Huh.
or maybe 10 nanometers. I think it's 10. Anyways, I don't know. Whatever.
Is that named after a person named Angstrom?
Probably, yeah, that would make
There you
sense. So,
go.
well, maybe that's what they're trying to say here. You know, it's so he was.
He's got a short fuse. Anyway, but yes, the end of the movie, he the idea, oh, he's gonna die, he's going to sleep, and his last line of dialogue, he says, "Let me sleep, let me sleep," and then he dies.
Yeah, he should have said, "I will sleep. I will dormir."
Yeah,
um,
very the end of the movie is pretty rough with the characters explaining their feelings and explaining the themes of the movie and stuff like that. Not very good.
it's also just very, it's so Americanized of like having this heroic idea at the ending of like, instead of in the original having this ambiguous morality thing where like he gets away with it, but you
Well,
know, now
yeah,
his, yeah, he's surrounded by darkness now, right? Like his eyes are literally surrounded by darkness, right?
and the bad guy wins
Yeah, right.
in a
And
way. In a way,
in a way, yeah, sure.
he gets
um
away with it technically.
and here it never really, they're never gonna let that happen, right? It's very much like it's very reminiscent of the Speak No Evil remake that happened
I never
Last year or the
saw.
year before.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. I haven't seen the original or the remake for that one.
I think the original was 2020, maybe, or 20. It might be 2020 and then 2022. That might be no. I think it's
22 and 24.
2022 and 2024. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a very quick turnaround. But again, it's because it was I think it was a Danish movie that was remade in America. Um, and the American remake just has like a, no spoilers here, but it's a very heroic ending, right? Like the original has one hell of a depressing ending.
Mm.
Um, like don't watch that before you want to like that's not a date movie. Just gonna tell you that. Um, but but
Yeah.
this is very reminiscent of that, where like Hollywood can't just let you have a dark, morally ambiguous ending. It's got to force feed you some stupid heroic bullshit of there's going to be a gunfight um and uh and he's going to give himself up, like save whatever. I don't know. It was garbage.
Yeah, and the original, like, well, the remake having him die, it's like there is that idea. I think it was in the Hays Code where people who committed crimes and stuff, they had to either go to jail or die at the end of the movie. And this sort of applies to that, where he has this heroic death where, he ends up, he kills the bad guy, he tells her to tell the truth, and then he dies. So it's like the perfectly, everything's morally right. Yeah, that's good. That's very nice. But in the original, it's a lot more disturbing of, oh yeah, like this guy now is just in the society. He's just going back in the world. And uh, the world is not a morally just place. So it's a lot more, I'd say, realistic and not trying to enforce some kind of idealized moral ending. And instead, it has a lot more interesting of an ending. So yeah, this sort of heroic death for Will Dormer was a little lame, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and even the build up to it, there was like the I guess it wasn't too much of like a gunfight, but like there was some shooting, and it was in, it was like in the first one, I think there's a shotgun that gets shot when he's, uh, I don't even remember
It's
exactly
more
what
of a
it is.
it's more of like a foot chase through. There
Yeah,
is like a gunshot at one point, I think, but it's more of a foot chase, and he like falls through a wooden, you know, a piece of wood in this dilapidated shack,
right, that's right.
and then he drowns.
Yeah, and in this, it was like a big gunfight, and like it kind of just felt lousy, and at the end, I was like, I know what's like, whatever. I felt very like not invested anymore at that point.
Yeah.
Um, and another like very kind of Hollywoodized piece of this, in my opinion, was when in the original, there's like this kind of chase beforehand when he first figures out who he is, and he gets hit by a car, and he gets in the car and he follows,
Yeah. That
and
was
it was,
cool. And he's like still bleeding from his head. Yeah.
yeah, and it was really cool. There's this slow drip of blood from his head, and he can't see through the windshield. Right, he looks through the rear view window, and I felt like there was like some interesting symbolism there of like not being able to look forward and looking backward and stuff. But anyways, in the remake though, what happens there instead is like he gets on a chase on some logs, which was like, I guess, more exciting if that's like what you're looking for, maybe. Like,
But it was very silly. These two like pretty old, middle-aged, like 50 or 60-year-old men chasing each other across these logs. Very silly.
yeah, the logs are obviously not. What the hell are you doing? You're a cop, don't you know? Like, not to
Couldn't he
do.
go around?
Yeah, like this old guy's running on logs. You'd better go to the end of the logs so that when he's tired and at the end of them, you can arrest him or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like running on the logs, and he like falls in a couple times. You get some underwater shots. It's
He
I
gets
think
stuck under them at one point,
right.
almost drowns. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very much like, they're trying to make it more invigorating, more exciting, more like, whoa, you're getting underwater, like, whoa, like, you're running over these logs, whoa, but they're gonna turn,
Yeah.
cool, like, and it just felt like it felt very more Hollywood than like just letting that kind of like slow and symbolic car chase happen that I thought was more interesting in the first one.
Yeah, that the log chase was pretty rough. Not a great scene, kind of silly. Um, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know, pretty disappointing remake. I feel like we covered a pretty good amount. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to mention. Oh,
Yeah.
there was one other thing I wanted to say. The
Mhm.
beginning of this movie, I felt like the editing was very, very choppy. They in this like it would just be a conversation between two people, and they were just constantly cutting back and forth, and they're it was just too much. I don't know, if that's the editor or Christopher Nolan or who is making these decisions, and it could have been from maybe a lack of coverage in the when they were shooting. Who knows? But I don't know. Just the way it was edited was really choppy and kind of annoying. It actually got a little better further on. In the final climactic scene, they do it intentionally very choppy, and it didn't really work for me. But I will say the sort of that style of editing kind of worked in the foggy scene when he accidentally shoots his partner because it kind of felt disorienting. And in that scene, I think it worked. But it was weird at the beginning of the movie, like just any conversation scene. They're cutting back and forth all the time, and there's unnecessary insert shots of like a guy's picking up a phone, and now we have to cut in to see the phone, and we cut to the reaction, cut to him, blah, blah. And it's like you're doing way too much. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and to go along with that, there was like the editing in of these shots that turns out to be the main character washing blood off his sleeves because, oh, you know why? Because it turns out he was only a bad cop to do something good. That was the stupidest thing. They let
the
you
internal affairs
believe,
thing.
yeah, the internal affairs thing. Do you remember what it turns out that he did?
No,
I don't exactly remember, but I remember it was something like the person was gonna get away, but the person was like a child killer. And so uh he planted evidence that,
classic cop move.
yeah, right. And so he planted the evidence, but it was to put away like a brutal child killer. Like it wasn't like a, it's not like he's like
He planted
planting
weed on a hot
drugs on
kid or
people to
something.
get, yeah, right. Like he's like legitimately putting away a terrible person. But so it turns out that even though he was supposed to be a bad guy and morally ambiguous because he was getting an internal affairs investigation, it wasn't actually, I mean, yeah, sure, he planted evidence and that's bad, but like it's not like what you were maybe meant to believe at first of like, maybe he's doing things to plant evidence on people that are innocent or like, to get himself more money or something like that, right? No, his morals were always on the good side, whatever.
Yeah.
um
Well,
yeah.
yeah, the making him more heroic is definitely a lame Hollywood version of this remake that is pretty annoying. I will say one positive about the movie. I thought Robin Williams was pretty good as this creepy uh writer guy, sort of a groomer. Well, he's literally a child murderer, I guess, right? So I don't know. But he was sufficiently creepy, and I think they give, I don't know, in the original, I think that character was a little bit weak, but I think Robin Williams does a really good job portraying that character, and I thought that was a positive for the movie.
I'd agree with you there. I think I'm a big Robin Williams fan, so I think I was pretty hopeful for him, and I also think it's interesting that they have like uh Robin Williams, who's I would say normally playing like good people, right? I can't think of many villain roles for Robin Williams.
Well, he did 1 Hour Photo just a couple, maybe the same year as this, or
Oh,
around the same time.
wow.
But yeah, he did done a couple, but generally he's like a beloved
Yeah,
guy, like Dead,
right.
whatever, Dead Poet Society, or he's in that, right? Am I
Yeah,
crazy?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's it.
and Goodwill Hunting,
Yeah.
he's a beloved figure.
Yeah. And so I had high hopes just because I adore him, and I was very impressed. I think he is a more versatile actor than I even realized, right? I mean, he's not just going to make you laugh and want him to be your professor. You know, he's also going to or teacher or whatever he is, but he's also going to make you think that he could be this creepy guy. Um,
Yeah.
I think his dialogue was probably maybe some of the strongest too. I think a lot of times in the movie, the dialogue is very like quippy in this one. Much faster dialogue than in the original,
Yeah.
and I kind of like, especially at the like the police station a couple times, I was just kind of annoyed by the dialogue. But I think for the most part, I think his dialogue was. I don't remember anything bad about it, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the stronger parts of the movie.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess
I'm
that's pretty much all I have to say about Insomnia.
Yeah, me too. Surprised, I think, that Chris Nolan, I mean, he made Memento before this, but it was an early movie for him. So I guess
Yeah.
not everything's a winner.
Yeah, I mean, this and Following are probably my least favorite of his movies. Obviously, Following is just such a different context. It's like, you know, independent shoestring budget made on the weekends. So there's kind of more grace that you give a little bit of like, it's cool that they made it with so little resources. Whereas this is like a big Hollywood production and it's pretty disappointing. So, yeah, this is maybe my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I haven't seen Following, but that's his debut, right? It's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a black and white, very low budget. It's like about a guy who follows people around and he like breaks into their apartments or something like that. I saw it years and years ago. Part of the reason I'm not is that I haven't seen it in so long that it's hard for me to compare. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I it's all right from what I remember.
Yeah, this has got to be the only Chris Nolan movie that I've seen that I actively didn't like, to be honest. I think all the movies I've seen, I would say uh, almost all of his movies. I think Following and Tenet I haven't seen, uh,
Mm.
but I can't think of another I haven't seen. But I guess if I haven't seen it, how would I think of it? But
You've probably seen all those other ones.
yeah, but I love all the other ones of his movies, and I would say even the Dark Knight Rises. I'm a Dark Knight Rises stan. You know, what can I say? Um,
Wow.
but I would say I just didn't like this one.
Yeah. Definitely definitely a disappointing movie. I gave it 2.5 stars out of 5.
I I was between 2.5 and 2 stars, and I ended up going with 2 stars. I think I think I actually had like while I was writing my review, I put 2.5 at first, and then when I finished writing my review, I realized how annoyed I was. I was writing all these things I was annoyed
Yeah.
by, and then I was like, all right, 2 stars. um, but it does. I mean, we can go over the rating recap real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't do this for the originals because we're not really talking too much about them,
Yeah.
um, but for the remake here for Insomnia, it's got a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, a
Wow.
7.2 out of 10 on IMDb, a 92% Rotten Tomatoes score, and a 77% audience score. So quite a bit lower for the audience score than the critic score. And the really high critic score, which is surprising to me. Um,
Mm.
so it averages out to 7.7, almost 7.78 out of 10, which is much higher than I expected. But
I will say, you said that it has a 7.2 on IMDb. The
yeah,
original also has a 7.2 on IMDb,
wow.
and the original has a 3.6 on Letterboxd.
Wow.
So pretty
So
similar.
it must be really close. You know what? I mean, it's easy enough. I want to see what the Rotten Tomatoes ones are for it because uh, it'd be insane, I think, if this would be close enough to average out higher. Oh my God, it has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 770% average, 77% audience score. So without doing the math, I think it would actually average either the same or very slightly higher because of the 3.6. No, it's
Yeah.
3.6 versus a 9.5. Uh, a 95%. So it would average technically very slightly lower. Um, uh,
What was the Rotten Tomatoes for the remake? 96?
sorry, 92.
92.
92.
Yeah, so the
So
original would have slightly higher
very
rating.
slightly.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's nice. But both of
that's
us
nice.
think it's a bigger gap between the original and the remake than the general consensus.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess, I mean, I don't know. I'll just say for the original, I gave the original 3.5 stars. I thought it was pretty good.
I also gave the original 3.5 stars. Yeah, I thought it was a really good sort of depiction of this crazy fucked up character. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Um,
definitely recommend. Obviously, it's whatever. People have already heard all these spoilers, so whatever. But a very good movie. Glad I watched it.
yeah. I would say I don't even think I think a lot of people are gonna watch Insomnia, this remake, because you're like, if you like Christopher Nolan, maybe you want to see some of his lesser known movies, like not lesser known maybe, but like lesser
Yeah.
watched ones.
Oh,
Um,
this is I would say Insomnia is probably his least popular, or Insomnia and Following are probably his least popular movies.
I would say it makes sense.
Yeah.
But so I think people will see this just because, like, uh, it's got Chris Nolan, of course, it's got Al Pacino, it's got Robin Williams, um,
Yeah. And
and it's, yeah, surprisingly high rated. But
I could see people, if you haven't seen the original, sort of being like, "Oh, that was a like solid movie." But I think the way we're doing this, like, just the comparisons to the original are inevitable, and it sort of definitely made me feel more negatively toward the remake because I just watched and really liked the original. But if I hadn't seen that, maybe I would have been a little more forgiving.
yeah, I feel the same. I mean, I watched this like literally back to back,
Yeah,
um,
tough.
and yeah, definitely a tough one to watch back to back. It's I think this is also just in terms of remakes in general. I remember liking Speak No Evil, the remake, a decent amount, but not as much as the original. And I think the kind of quick turnaround, taking an international movie and making it into English remakes, are definitely going to be. They're going to have those symptoms of, like, Americanism and Hollywoodization and
Yeah, it's
heroism.
definitely usually a recipe for not a very good movie, in my opinion, or at least a
Yeah,
movie that's not as good as the original and feels unnecessary. That's the big thing with this movie. It feels like a
right.
pretty much unnecessary remake.
Right. And so it doesn't really feel inventive or interesting particularly.
Yeah.
Um and
That's
it's really,
why.
yeah.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say that I totally agree, and that's why I think if they had maybe expanded on the Hilary Swank character, at least it would have been a new direction to take the movie. So it would have just offered something new.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's like ultimately why, like, these types of remakes, I mean, I guess they're probably mostly just for the audience of people who are watching English movies maybe, and not necessarily, going to go out of their way to watch um a Swedish or a Danish movie in the Speak No Evil case. Uh but I think ultimately, if I mean, if you can stick through the subtitles, I think you're going to enjoy the originals for most of these movies probably more than their American counterparts.
Yeah, definitely, definitely agree.
Very
Well,
different than the other type of movie, remake.
exactly. Our next movie is a very different type of remake, a remake of a horror classic, George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. We're talking Zack Snyder and James Gunn's Dawn of the Dead from 2004. So Ryan, this was your pick. Take it away.
Yeah. Well, this is George Romero's 1978 classic that followed many years later, followed his Night of the Living Dead. I think
Yeah,
he
10
like
years.
Yeah, I think he said he didn't want to be he didn't want to be known as like the horror director, so he waited a while.
Or the
Um
zombie guy, maybe. Because
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
he had trouble like funding movies that weren't zombie movies sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't think he worked. I don't think that worked. I think he's pretty much known as the zombie director, which
Yeah.
for better or worse. I mean, I think his original Night of the Living Dead is amazing in my opinion. His Dawn of the Dead I really really liked. Um uh so you know what? I think sucks to suck, George, but we're gonna know you as the zombie guy, it seems like.
Yeah, Day of the Dead is pretty awesome. That's I have a couple controversial takes I think on this whole situation because I think Day of the Dead is my favorite of his original trilogy. Night of the Living Dead is great, but I really like Day of the Dead. Great special effects, and I remember really loving it. I haven't seen it in years though, so maybe around this Halloween I'll get to rewatching it finally. But his Dawn of the Dead is my least favorite of those original three. And I'm gonna say it right now. I'm not a Snyder guy. I'm not a big James Gunn guy. And I think I preferred the remake to the original. And I watched them both. I actually watched them both back to back, kind of like you did with Insomnia. I watched them on the same, I think I watched them on the same day. Yeah, I'm pretty, yeah. And I might have watched them one day apart. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
But I actually slightly preferred the remake to the original. I thought the pacing was really great. And yeah, the original I thought was honestly a little disappointing based on its reputation as a classic. And I remembered it that way. I remembered it being my least favorite, but I was always like, I need to give it another shot. And after I rewatched it again, I was like, it's just not my personal favorite. So yeah, there you go. All right, everyone's mad at me. Everyone just turned off the podcast, but that's my opinion on it.
I I think that I really love the original. Uh the original I really liked that movie. That movie's
Yeah.
awesome.
I saw you gave
Um
it 5 stars,
I did actually
right?
I did bump it down. Sometimes I,
Oh,
I think as many people maybe like reflecting over the next few days. And I did bump it down to 4.5 stars, but I mean tomatoes and tomatoes, right?
yeah.
Um uh but yeah, I think just I mean the practical effects are of course really cool. I think there's a lot of really neat like symbolism of American culture and obviously like zombies can represent kind of the downfall of that in many ways, but especially kind of attacking a mall, right? I think that's really cool. I thought a lot the shot some of the shots were just really neat. And I think yeah, just so much cool stuff about the original. I don't want to gush too much about it, but I did probably one of my
Hey,
favorite zombie movies. Yeah,
this is the episode to gush about
that's
it.
true. That's true. I didn't. So I will say I didn't like it as much as Night of the Living Dead. I think Night of the Living Dead lives on um, as as my favorite of them so far. But the Dawn of the Dead was just a ton of fun. It felt like there was so many quotable lines. Like this is a movie I could totally watch a bunch of times. And I really liked at the one, I really liked kind of the process of securing them all. I thought that was really interesting of like going to get the trucks and securing them all that way.
Yeah. I will say, I understand the reason that they can't do this is because they can't run over human beings who are pretending to be zombies. But when you have these trucks run over the zombies, man, what do you
Yeah.
do? It was just the whole time I was watching, I was like, run them over. What are you doing? And oh man, that was a bit of a frustrating part of the movie. Also, one of the characters I just found annoying as hell. Even like both the white guys, honestly, were kind of annoying. Like they both just kind of got on my nerves a little bit. And there's only 4 characters, so um,
That yeah, that can be
it
tough
was,
when you have the four characters. If you don't like one of them, then that's already a quarter of the people that you listen to.
yeah, exactly. And the pacing was just a little bit weird. Like I don't know. There is a Europe. So I watched like the American theatrical cut. Apparently there's like a different European cut, which is
Yeah.
a little bit shorter and has apparently more of the Goblin soundtrack, which I really like the soundtrack, but if there was more of that and then it was shortened down a little bit, maybe I would prefer the European cut to the US theatrical cut. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean it is a good movie.
Yeah.
There are some really nice shots. There's the soundtrack is good. Obviously, it's super influential, and there are interesting themes and symbolism and imagery there. And in a way, it's kind of like, you know, I'm like, if it's a little unsophisticated to be like, well, the fast zombies are scarier, and so I liked it more. But sometimes that's just how you feel, man.
Yeah, man. Hey,
I don't have to pretend to be some intellectual. I like the
man,
fast zombies.
we're not zombies here. What we feel is okay. Whatever. No. But uh, one one cool thing about the original, I also didn't watch the European version, but it is Dario Argento got like final say on that cut. So that's the Argento cut, and it's very and I think people like that one maybe a little bit more, even if most people online seem to figure that the Romero cut's kind of the like
The definitive one.
definitive one. Yeah. But I do want to watch the Argento cut kind of soon. I was like, damn, I kind of want to just I actually I ordered the box for this. I
Nice.
think
So does it have both on there?
it has like four versions. Yeah,
Oh,
kind of
sweet.
crazy. I don't know exactly. No, it has three versions and a full special feature disc.
Oh, wow.
So uh,
That is cool.
yeah, really
I
nice,
watched an older DVD that I had, and actually the DVD looked pretty good. Like I
nice.
was watching it, I was like, oh, this actually is like pretty good quality. So yeah. You know what's funny? Well, I watched a DVD of Dawn of the Dead, looked good, played good. I have a Blu-ray of the Insomnia remake. I started playing it, and like an hour in, it skipped. I'm like,
Oh
Blu-ray,
man.
this is what you're not supposed to be doing. Also, whatever. I literally just had bought this fucking box set, so then for it to come in and now it's started not
Oh,
working, kind of annoying. At least it's a movie that I probably won't be rewatching, so it doesn't really matter. But luckily, it was on the Criterion channel, so I was able to just watch it on the Criterion channel, the second half of the remake.
oh man. The
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy. That was like that's foreshadowing right there. You can't even watch the Insomnia remake on disc. It's so
they were
well,
like,
whatever.
"Why did you buy this?" So the person like packaging it like opened it up and like scratched it just so
Yeah.
I didn't have to sit through it or whatever.
um
Yeah, but I
but
did one thing about we can maybe get into the remake
yeah.
of Dawn of the Dead, but both movies, I think, especially the original, have really iconic posters.
Oh yeah.
Really cool, just like great posters.
Yeah. Um the box has the poster like on it's like the print of the box is the iconic like head poster
Nice.
on the horizon thing, you know.
Hmm.
Um and I mean it looks awesome. You know, that's like I had to get it.
Yeah, that's all. That's like a great movie poster you could put it like put up on a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um but yeah, I mean I think I mean both the original and the remake, I think one thing I'm learning about myself in the last couple of years is you know, I think the like themes of zombies and and the historical context, which is brought up a little bit in the original, and I forget if it's brought up at all. I think it maybe not so much in the remake, but the historical context of like the Haitian zombie um is really fascinating to me, and I'm actually like I'm falling in love with the zombie movies. I used to like
nice,
enjoy zombies as like a creature feature thing, you know, but the thematic resonance of them is hitting a lot more. Um, and I
nice.
also think that both these movies taking place in a mall is is really crazy. Like we might never have movies take place in malls anymore.
Yeah, or I mean, they would be great. Like coming up, it would be like abandoned malls would be a great setting for like a found footage movie or something like an abandoned mall. There's some creepy shit in an abandoned mall. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Or maybe just
Totally.
not just a normal movie that's some kids go into an abandoned mall and some crazy shit goes down. That'd be
Hey, no,
cool.
I'm sold on the found footage. Don't worry.
Nah, no, 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 no. It doesn't have to be found footage.
Yeah, like Chernobyl Diaries, but it's like Emerald Square Mall Diaries or something.
Yeah, like Chronicle without the superpowers. They
Yeah.
yeah, Emerald Square Mall Diaries. That'd be funny.
Um, but yeah, so I think there's so much cool theming and stuff in zombies, and I think in both these movies, again, getting a little bit more into the remake too, is the idea of having it at the mall is really interesting to show like just how impactful and important malls were to like American society in the times that these came out, right? Um,
Well, it's
yeah,
interesting because in the original, they actually have to explain what a mall is because it's
yeah,
1978. They're in the helicopter and they say like, "What's that place?" And one of the guy goes, "Oh, it's a shopping mall." And in obviously in the remake, it's 2004, so malls have been a hugely popular thing for over 20 years, so they don't have to explain it at all. But
yeah,
I thought that was kind of interesting because
yeah,
it's really the 78 is pretty much like the malls are starting to take off, and I feel like in the 80s they become, massive, and American consumerism becomes a big thing.
yeah, definitely. And I think that was like a really cool thing in the remake is they're able to just like really show off mall culture, right? Like there's some montages in the remake of like one guy's like hitting golf balls off the top, and there's like uh uh I don't even remember, but that's all sorts of stuff that's like just very much so just people doing things in a mall. Like which feels like what you do not in a zombie apocalypse when we were kids, you
Yeah.
know, like um yeah, like they're playing games in an arcade at one point, shooting things in the arcade and stuff. And it's very like again that mall nostalgia is like definitely reminiscent, but like it's interesting at the time in 2004 this wouldn't have been like nostalgia that hits, you know, it's like just the excitement of going to the mall or something, you know.
Yeah.
um yeah, that excitement doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, like for the mall, right? Like the I feel like even exciting malls nowadays, unless you're thinking of like, you know, Mall of America, that's more of like a tourist trap. Um, you're really just getting like there's like maybe a couple things to do, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Way
people
different.
don't really go to malls anymore. I mean, obviously everyone shops online, but like I feel like kids don't roam malls. Like when
Yeah.
I was like in maybe like 14-ish, 15-ish, so we would just be like, "Oh, we want to go to the mall?" We just walk around the mall. We look at stuff. We just talk and hang out, and it was just a place to hang out.
Yeah.
Which maybe it's not ideal that the place for kids to hang out is like a place where it's like buy things, buy, keep buying. Maybe that's just a
Very
a
American.
exactly, yeah, definitely a the insidiousness of American society. But yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of interesting in the original that they get like bored of them all, and that's literally the reason it kind of all goes to shit pretty much, is because they're like, I'm kind of bored. Like they have everything blocked off. There are no zombies in the mall. And then they're like, I'm kind of bored. Let me fly this helicopter. And then the Nazi biker people like see that and they're like, whoa, let's invade the mall. So
Yeah.
malls were not as like romanticized, maybe. And obviously the zombies, they're brainless, mindless people walking the mall, kind of they're NPCs or whatever, you know. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like in the like I think there's a reading of the original where it's like zombies are taking over uh like, you know, mindless people are becoming a thing because of malls in a way, like not literally, but like I think there's a thematic or symbolic reading to the movie in that way. But in the remake it's more of people defending the mall, you know, like people defending American culture from that mindlessness. And I think in the original I think that also is the case, to be honest, but I think there is a reading of the original that there isn't really of the first sorry, of the remake, where it's like you know, zombieism and brainlessness is becoming a thing from the malls, right? And kind of American consumerism and all that.
Yeah, the remake almost is pro mall in a way. But
Right.
right, and if you think of the mall as a symbol of America, the original is more critiquing America and American consumerism, and the remake is kind of defending it in some way,
Right.
perhaps. But like, and there is a so I don't know, there are some interesting things going on with the remake where uh I think CJ is the mall cop, like security, and they're sort of defending them, and they don't want to let people in. He's sort of build the wall conservative type character. And then some of the other people are want to bring people in to save them from the horrors of the outside world. And I think there is something to the mall is America, and that's you know that border aspect.
Mhm.
Um, and it's very 2004, very post 9/11. Also, in the opening credits, for some reason, there's shots of like chaos and what's going on, and then there's just a shot of like a bunch of people praying in a mosque.
Yeah.
And there's like no reason for it to be there, except maybe that it's like 2004 and it's like maybe kind of like racist or something. I don't know why that's even there. Uh, so yeah, I think there is a way to interpret the Dawn of the remake as being some kind of pro-America, but also
America
pro,
first. Yeah.
but also no, but it's pro-immigration, I think, because
Yeah.
they let the people in and the people end up helping their society and they end up needing them to get to the boat. Obviously, it doesn't work out, but uh, they strengthen their society by letting people come in.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think I think again, this is one of these things about the zombie movies that I'm realizing is that I think you can just dig so much into the themes because zombies themselves are so rich in like thematic uh
Yeah.
uh origin, right? And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and definitely slow zombies have that more metaphorical feeling to it when you're watching it. It's like the the fast zombies is more just thrilling and go go go. But also I feel like there is something too as society got everything is so fast and overstimulating and there's all you can always you're scrolling through your TikToks and your Instagrams and there's
Subway
always
Surfer at the bottom.
yeah, Subway, yeah, and you're constantly stimulated, and oh my, it's like we're slowly degrading into this cyberpunk society, and uh, and the zombies have to get faster because other people are bored, so you have to
Yeah.
make the zombies faster. So it's sort of a reflection of the way society has changed in the 21st century in a way.
Yeah, and I don't even know if we've mentioned this yet, but I think this might be the first movie, or at least one of the first, with
20
running zombies.
28 days later, 2 years earlier,
Dang it.
big
And
one
that's embarrassing. We're literally covering that in like,
in like a month.
very soon. Yeah. But
Yeah, but
it's been a
those
while.
are, I mean, if you want to be a purist, those are from a virus.
That's right. That's yeah, and we're purists here on our zombie.
It's not
Yeah.
super clear in the Dawn of the Dead remake. Do they make it clear the origins of it? They say, oh, maybe it's a virus, but
Yeah. So I mean, some guy gets bit at the beginning, right? Like one of the main characters works in a ER. She's a nurse, I
oh
think.
yeah,
And
incredible opening.
yeah. Um, yeah. And then pretty much she gets home, and I think at night she gets waken up with her boyfriend or husband by their daughter, I think. It's not really
Neighbor, I think it's a
clear.
neighbor.
The neighbor. Okay, that makes more sense. I was confused on why she never really cared that her daughter died, but I guess that makes sense. Um, and and the neighbor daughter, the neighbor girl is like a zombie and bites the dad, or what, not the dad, whatever.
The
And then
husband.
shit goes to hell, right? And then
Yeah,
but then she gets outside, and also like everywhere is already gone to hell.
yeah.
um and there's maybe some of the coolest car camera work ever, where the cars are like, the camera's like, just, oh man, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just gorgeous, the camera
Oh
work.
yeah, the opening sequence to this is really incredible. Just exciting and thrilling and legitimately like scary or like, oh my God, what the fuck? There's stuff is coming out of nowhere. It's yeah, it's crazy.
Another one of these things that's very especially if you compare this to the original movie, really overstimulating in the beginning.
Oh
um
yeah.
in fact, there's a couple of like zombie screeching moments in the beginning, in the opening sequence, that I kind of didn't like. I like it felt like they were trying to like auditorily jump scare you, and I was like, ah,
Mm,
I don't know. I don't love the screeching in my ears, like
I
it
could
didn't
see
help
that. I
that.
will say,
Yeah, yeah.
zombies not supposed to be enjoyable. Probably not gonna sound like a nice nice song lullaby for you.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But I don't know. I think in the beginning, I was nervous in this opening sequence because I liked the opening sequence so much, but it did feel like there was like a couple of moments that were supposed to feel like jump scarily and like very like loud and momentarily loud. And I was nervous that was going to be reminiscent of a lot of the movie, and it really wasn't, which is good. But I really like a lot of that opening sequence, but I just, again, I think this is like kind of a product of its time, in the sense that like um I had just watched the original Dawn of the Dead, where the zombies are very slow and the movie is very honestly, it's very quiet. It's a quiet movie.
Yeah.
um
Oh, yes, it is.
and this is almost right away you're introduced to very different zombies, which is fine, and I ended up really liking that. But um I was getting a little nervous with the what I felt like was unnecessary loudness and jump scary things.
I could see that. I didn't, at least from what I remember, I don't remember any like jump scares that annoyed me. I'm usually a
Mhm.
guy who kind of hates jump scares, but I really hate when it's like someone just opens a door, but for some reason he slams the door and it's and it's just a
Yeah.
loud noise for no reason. Or it's like a cat jumps off something and it's boom slash and it just is super quiet and then bang! It just to make you jump. And it's completely out of context of the story and there's no reason for it to be happening. And it's just
Right.
a loud noise just to make you jump. I hate those. I hate them, even though I probably just jump scared someone who's listening to this by screaming. But
Yeah. Bang.
yeah, but like in this movie, I felt like they were generally in the context of like something that made sense to me. It was like a zombie coming after someone, and it was maybe startling, but it didn't feel like a cheap jump scare to me.
Mhm.
But yeah, the main thing I didn't like about the movie, at least I watched it on Netflix. I don't know if there's a Blu-ray or a 4K that maybe looks better, but the color grading and some of the cinematography in this movie is like dog shit in some scenes. It's really, really bad. It's very early 2000s. Some scenes just look all blue. It's all blue or all green. And it's pretty rough to look at in certain scenes. This is definitely a thing at the time. I think maybe The Matrix was a big thing. Like obviously The Matrix, it has a reason for it to look like that. There every
Is there? I don't know.
But like after that, I feel like a ton of movies just went for that aesthetic. And like the Saw is something that comes to mind. I don't know. But I feel like a lot of movies in this era have this type of color grading that I really don't like, and it's pretty ugly. So that is definitely the biggest hit to this movie, in my opinion, is that it genuinely looks bad in many scenes and many shots.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think also just thinking more about the cinematography, it's interesting that something like the beginning car sequence where I adore the cinematography, that was amazing. Um,
Yeah.
is contrasted so much to me by other moments of cinematography. Like there's moments pretty much any time that someone fires a gun, not literally, but almost, it you get like this weird angular shot of the gun, but it's like looking at the person, and you get like the front of the gun as it shoots, and you get like the firing of the gun instead of like what they're shooting at. And
Mhm.
I was just like it there was one, when they get attacked near the fountain towards the beginning,
Yeah.
and they shoot maybe 4 times or something there, and I think like 3 of them are pretty quick succession, and it shows like a different person almost each time, and it's always like a kind of a down the close to the barrel shot, camera shot of them taking the shot, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm getting confused, I'm getting dizzy, I'm getting annoyed. I think that was my least favorite cinematography in the movie, maybe, is just the close-ups on the guns. Like, I don't know, I get that they're shooting a gun. Actually, you don't need to show me that. Yeah. There's a
Yeah, I
noise, just show me what they shoot.
yeah, there are definitely a lot of scenes in the mall, especially had some really bad lighting, in my opinion. Just from what I remember, I don't know if there's, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that was definitely a weak part of the movie. And the original, I will say the cinematography is probably one of the strong suits of the original.
Oh
So
yeah.
that is contrast there. But I will say, I think a weak part of the original is the action. A lot of the action felt almost silly and not super believable just with how ineffective the zombies were in the original. They're like they're really bad at their job of biting people. But in this movie, I think the action is a lot more thrilling and you feel the danger uh, of any situation where there's zombies. Like when they go outside to help the people get in and the zombies are coming at them, it's like, oh man, like get the fuck out of there. Like you gotta be quick. So I think the action kind of makes up for it, at least in keeping the pace pretty quick and it keeps things going, keeps things thrilling. So I was never really bored watching the movie.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think the original for me felt almost like campy in the fighting, right? Because like there's times where they literally just like push them very lightly with their
Yeah.
guns, and I like every time I was like, nice. Like, but I can definitely see that is not an exciting combat, especially compared to something like in this where yeah, a lot of the combat is like actually pretty exciting. I think again like I just there was a lot of showing me like the guns, and I just like I don't
Hmm.
know. Maybe I'm just not
Interesting.
a
That's
gun
not really,
person.
it's not really something that I
Notice,
noticed or
yeah,
like bothered me, but yeah, interesting. There is
yeah,
definitely a lot of using guns, and guns are seen as a good helpful thing to kill zombies, but it kind of makes sense to me.
yeah. I
But
mean, that's true. They, you know,
I
it turns out if you can shoot them, you can kill them.
yep, you got to shoot him in the head. They I will say, I think regarding the first three Romero, zombie trilogy, Uh, I think maybe part of my issue with Dawn of the Dead is like Night of the Living Dead. There's actually you don't see the zombies very much at all. It's a lot of
Yeah,
implication, a lot of sort of Jaws style. You don't see the shark, like they're kind of reaching through stuff and you hear them outside and it's a lot of implication. And then Day of the Dead, which is 1985, I think the effects are better and the action is, from what I remember, is a lot more effective. And the zombies are a little scarier. But Dawn of the Dead is right in the middle, and I think we see the zombies a lot, so it doesn't have the same mystique of the Night of the Living Dead. But I think it's also like you said, it's definitely campy, and they didn't come off as scary to me.
right.
Um, so I think that was part of why I didn't love the original.
Yeah, I will say the original, and this is I will say this is also true for the remake, which is great. The practical effects are top notch. I mean, there's moments in the original when like they're trying like they it looks like they're taking a bite out of someone, and I'm like, how did they like make a human cake? You know, like those perfect cake things that look like a it looks like a phone, and then you cut it, it's a cake. It's like, did
Yeah.
they make a human cake for someone to bite out of? You know, like it was. I was very impressed with pretty much all the practical effects in the original and in the remake. I thought like zombies looked great, um, and a lot of the practical effects were just pretty good in it. I would say,
Yeah, I
if not great.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And they need to get Tom Savini on Perfect Cake. Get him on.
Yes.
If anyone from Perfect Cake is somehow listening right now, get Tom Savini on your show.
Like, come on.
He's still alive, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, well, doesn't he have a cameo in well, he plays one of the bikers in the original, but he has a cameo in the remake,
And
right?
yeah, yeah. The remake was,
2004.
20 years ago, but yeah.
Right.
But I think he's still alive. Let me look it up. Tom
I'm
Savini.
also looking it up. It's a race.
Uh-oh.
It's a race.
Here
This
we
is
go.
bad podcast content,
He's
but it's a race.
alive. He's
Yep.
78 years old. Bam, I win. You guys hear that?
I
1 point Ryan. I said it first. We're on a podcast. Nobody cares if you saw it first.
I did see it though, but okay. 1946 he was born.
um
All right. Well, shout
anyways,
out to
yeah,
Tom
so
Savini. He is awesome.
yeah. Did now I should know this because we're on a podcast. Did he do the special effects for this one? It was like a company that
Mm,
did the special effects.
no, I don't think he did, but maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe he did.
I don't think so either. I think yeah, I don't know. I think I like looked and then it wasn't him, so then I didn't really care. But they
Yeah,
were
that's fair.
good. I mean, the special
Yeah.
effects in this one were still pretty good.
Yeah, they were. There's definitely some digital
Yeah.
used, but it's it's decently well done from what I remember. But yeah, Tom Savini. Uh
Yeah.
Friday the 13th final chapter, best special effects in the series. That's Tom Savini. There you
There
go.
you go. Um and if I remember correctly, I think Dawn of the Dead was kind of like a big showing of his ability here.
Yeah. I think it's even better in Day of the Dead. I think there's more like gore and special effects in Day of the Dead, and very I think it's even better than in Dawn of the Dead, in my opinion.
Um one one other thing about the remake though is the soundtrack. It was very early 2000s and very like exciting at times, and I mean it works for the early 2000s stuff, so it feels very in place.
There's some sort of like maybe like new metal going on
Yeah.
in the opening credits, right? From what I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it is very of its time.
yeah. Also, oh, and we mentioned the opening scene too, but we didn't really mention that that opening scene is like a pretty solid 5 minutes or so,
Maybe 10.
maybe 10 minutes before you even get the opening credits, of course, which is really
Yes.
cool,
Yeah.
really
Then you get
cool.
the opening credits, and then Sarah Polly wakes up. She meets Ving Rhames kind of like gets her out of her car. They meet Mekhi Phifer, his Russian wife, and the guy whose name I forget. He's like AJ or something like that. Uh, and they're like, we're going to the mall, and I think it's like a crane shot over a hill, and we see the mall, and boom, we're at the mall. Whereas the original, there's like maybe 30 minutes before they get to the mall. There's the zombies. It starts at a TV station, and the
Yeah,
main woman in the movie, well, the only woman in the movie, is like a TV producer or something like that. And then we see the cops at like a an apartment block in I think Pittsburgh, and or maybe Philadelphia. I think it's Philadelphia. But and there's there's zombies in there, and now we're kind of learning about the zombies, and they have to explain a lot of the zombies because it's not really understood culturally at that time.
yeah,
And they take a they get in the helicopter, and then they see sort of people out in rural Pennsylvania shooting zombies and kind of having a fun time shooting them. And there's all this stuff before we get to the mall. And in the remake, they pretty much excise all that. They're like, boom, we're at the mall. This is what we're doing. Um, and it's not that I disliked any of the stuff in the original, but I kind of liked that they just got right to business in the remake.
oh yeah. I see. I actually liked a lot of the stuff before the mall thing, but I didn't mind that they just jumped right into it in the remake either. I mean, I think they both worked. The original was a good like 30 minutes more maybe or something. So
Yeah.
if you cut
And
out that earlier time, yeah.
I will say, I think there's blackface in the original movie. There's a guy who looks like he's in blackface, who like he comes out and he gets shot by the cops. I'm pretty sure it's a white guy that's like painted to look like he's like black or Hispanic or something like that. Um, so yeah, I noticed that this time around. So you'll see it in like 4K soon enough once you get that.
I might have to drop my rating down a little bit.
But
Wow,
I
that's
actually, I mean, funny enough, I mean, that scene was pretty good, I thought, like in that apartment building. The TV stuff was I didn't dislike any of it, honestly. It was all fine. But I think the main thing of bringing that up is that in 2004, our culture now understands zombies. So it's not necessary to explain any of this stuff because we've had the Romero movies, we've had Return to the Living Dead, we've had 28 Days Later. Like everyone knows it, so you don't have to explain all that stuff. So it's not really a knock against the original. I think it's just a difference in the time they were made and the cultural understanding of the genre.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Romero was undoubtedly the creator of this genre in cinema, right? So um,
Modern. There's like White Zombie from the 30s, but
that's
that's
okay.
more the Haitian
Yeah,
voodoo zombie. He's the definitely popularized the modern idea of the zombie.
right. Kind of like the one that kind of takes over cinema, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, and I think it's impressive that he's able to build up so much story to them, and of course not just from him, but then over the years it just becomes, yeah, it's just like another creature, right? Like you don't need to explain any of this stuff anymore, which is crazy to me. And then yet they still somehow make like 8 seasons of The Walking Dead or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you doing in the 8th season? I don't know. Jesus Christ.
Killing zombies. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's all
I
about
liked that show for a little while, but
I never watched I think I saw the first episode, but I never really got into it and watched it all. Passed me by.
yeah. But anyway, sorry, I keep sidetracking us, but
I,
also in this movie, pregnant zombie and
there's
zombie
what?
baby, zombie
Yes.
baby.
Zombie baby. Mekhi Phifer was a fucking psycho, apparently.
It's
He ties up
crazy.
his wife who turns into a zombie, gives birth to baby zombie, and he kills a woman.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
an old lady too.
yeah, for no reason. Kind of a cool like trucker lady, and he kills her for
Yeah,
yeah, kind of
I, it was cool to have the baby zombie, but I also felt like it was a little unnecessary. But it was, I mean, it was an interesting throw in, so I took it.
yeah,
I'll
yeah. It's
take
kind
it.
of an expansion on. Isn't the lady pregnant in the original movie?
She is, yeah,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
never, but yeah, of course, we never see a zombie from her, but yeah,
right. Yeah.
um,
But maybe that is where it's taking inspiration from that, and then
yeah,
going in that direction. I will say, I mean, the movie's written by James Gunn, and honestly, I cared about the characters in the remake more than I cared about them in the original. And maybe that's controversial, maybe that's I don't know, but I like the Sarah Polly character. I actually was like, I wanted her to survive, and I really hated the guards, the CJ and that other guy, and then there was the nice guard who helps them out and whatever. So I found a lot, and Ving Rhames was a very interesting and entertaining character. I liked him. I liked that they expanded the cast and gave everyone these unique, sort of broad but understandable characters. Ty Burrell from Modern Family plays a douchebag, which is kind of funny. Um, and yeah, I found the characters like I was a little more invested in the characters and like the comedy. I appreciated the comedy in a lot of the scenes, and yeah, I thought it was a pretty well written movie.
yeah. I would say I also appreciated the characters quite a bit here. I think and CJ even has like this big character arc kind of that is maybe a little drastic, but it works. I mean, I think he gives himself up at the end to save the crew, and he does a few things at the end that are very heroic, and
Yeah.
of course, again, you always need that heroic stuff.
Mhm.
Um, Even in the original, they have that heroic ending of getting out on the helicopter. Although in the remake, they have that they're getting out with the armored cars, which was a pretty cool addition. I didn't hate the armored cars; those are pretty
Yeah, very
cool.
cool.
um, but they get out in the armored cars, and shit kind of hits the fan because one of the cars crashes over, and they try to go back for the people. And CJ is like giving up. He's trying to save a guy in the sewers even before this actually, and then he's trying to save people when the car goes down, and then um, towards the end he offers to like hold back the zombies while they get to the boat, and he's like, "I'll meet up with you," but he's not gonna.
Yeah,
And he blows himself up in the armored truck just to let them get away, and
yeah,
so he gets. I mean, I think it felt maybe it felt like he had a lot of heroic moments all at once at the end, and I don't know if it really felt like it really grew from him, but I
I think
enjoyed it and I liked it.
yeah, I think a lot of those actions felt kind of in line with his character, I guess. Um, it was really his like little sidekick guy that was really awful, and he gets killed. The like blonde, I think he's blonde or something. He says
Oh,
something about like something very rapey to
oh,
is it Sarah Polly maybe? Like when they're first
maybe,
there and they have him locked up or something. I forget exactly what, but I was like, oh yeah,
maybe
that guy's awful. And I think he dies an awful death, which was nice, I think.
that's probably
But
good.
yeah, but
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but yeah. So
one
I liked that. But
yeah, I was gonna say one interesting thing also about just how society has changed in over time. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead, main character is black, and that's a huge, you know, it plays a big factor in, interpreting the movie and the themes and this and everything. Um, and in Dawn of the Dead, the original, the one of the main characters is black. I believe at the end of the movie, it's him and the woman are the last people alive, right?
yeah, the pregnant
And
woman.
yes. And there's never any hint of romance between them. Um, and not that there necessarily needs to be, but I think in 1978, it was a lot more taboo to have an interracial couple, and that was avoided. And I'm not saying that George A. Romero was like against interracial. I'm sure he's not like, but it was just not a normal thing. in movies at that time. Like literally, it was only like 10 years prior that it was the first like interracial kiss on TV was in Star Trek, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty recent at that time. And in this movie, there's an interracial couple, and it's completely normal, and no one even comments on it that Mekhi Phifer is with a white Russian woman. Um, so kind of just another way these movies reflect the changing times in America. And that's obviously a good change. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, in this, like it's kind of arguable who really the main character is in this because it's really a a pile of characters.
Yeah.
But we certainly start.
Ensemble.
Yeah, right. We certainly start though by following Polly. What's her name?
Forget the character's name is Anna.
Anna. Yeah, we certainly start by following her, and she's kind of at least momentarily the main character of the movie, and then it sort of follows her all the way up until pretty much when we're at the mall. Then it's kind of the ensemble stuff, but
Yeah.
um, and so we kind of get a female lead here for a good chunk in the beginning of the movie, which is cool.
Yeah. And her like sort of love interest guy, his name is Michael. I think I called him AJ earlier, but I think I was mixing him up with CJ. But
Mm.
his name is Michael, I think.
How
And
dare you mix up the characters?
I know, right? There are so many characters that people get short shrifted and stuff. Like they're like kind of romance or whatever's going on. There's really nothing there. It's not
Yeah,
very interesting. And his character, I don't know, whatever. Uh, it's just that there's so many characters that and the pace is very quick, so they don't have a ton of time to develop every single one. But like Ving Rhames as Kenneth, just great. Just all, like you immediately understand like what this guy's vibe is, and you get him, and he's a very likable character. I enjoyed his character a lot, and his like sort of relationship with the guy across the way with all the guns, like that was kind of fun. So yeah, I think Sarah Polley and Ving Rhames were definitely like the standout characters for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, we didn't really talk much about the communication across the buildings, but that's like a really neat thing here where they use like the whiteboards to communicate across. And even when the guy across the way turns into a zombie, he like smudges some red blood onto the whiteboard, and they all think he's trying to write on it at first, but nah.
Yeah.
But again, kind of that instinct, right? Like at this point, his instinct is to be raising the thing. And so it kind of reinforces that idea that we quoted at the very beginning of like, you know, and that they mention in both these movies that instinct is maybe what brings them to the mall. And so maybe after you're a zombie, you're not really mindless as you're not just mindless, but you're like instinctual, right? You're doing your instinct stuff.
Yeah. So if I turn into a zombie, I'll just be watching movies all day. I'll be a
Yeah,
harmless zombie.
yeah, when when we turn to zombies, we're just gonna end up like
Yeah.
talking
We'll
about
still
pod.
have a yeah, we'll still have a
Yeah,
podcast of just zombie noises.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, I will say this movie has one of the craziest like tonal shifts I've ever seen. So like when they bring in their people, the additional group from the truck, there's a guy with a daughter, a teenage or young adult daughter. And the guy has been bit. And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to kill you." And they're like, "Should we shoot him now? What do we do?" And eventually it's a very sad, the daughter is distraught. It's very sad. The dad says, right before he dies, he's like, "You want every moment," or something like that. It's kind of poignant, actually. I thought it was actually pretty well done, pretty well written scene. And ends up I think Michael ends up having to shoot him. And we hear the gunshot, and oh man, that was heavy. Immediately there's a montage and like a silly song and a
yeah.
montage of people, they're hitting golf balls, they're having fun in the mall, and it's just like the biggest vibe shift. I was like, that is crazy to just go from one end of the spectrum to the other.
It's like he says, you gotta live.
Yeah,
They're just they're just doing what he said.
I I guess so. That
Yeah,
was
no, I agree. Yeah, that was wild.
that was absolutely crazy. And I think that montage had like, I'm trying to remember, it wasn't it like, I think it was like, I can't remember if it was that montage or a different time of the movie. There's like a jazz, like not what's the word? Not like free jazz, but like smooth jazz, like a smooth jazz rendition of a heavy metal song. I forget. Down with the Sickness, I think. I think it
I
might be
think you're
that
right.
one.
It might be. There is like three montages in this, at least two. I think there might be three montages in this movie.
Could
Um,
be, yeah. But that
which
was a very funny song.
yeah,
And then Down with the Sickness plays in the end credits over
yeah.
the footage of the island and all that. But that was a very
Yes.
funny like cover of Down with the Sickness.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and the end credits footage, I guess, like sort of pseudo, or not post credit, but during the credit scenes that you get there,
Yeah.
of like they find the camera on the boat, and we're getting some foreshadowing for uh Diary of the Dead, maybe,
Oh,
which
found
is a
footage
found
zombie.
footage
Yeah.
zombie movie. Um, but of course, we get to see a little bit of the camera, and like I think everyone dies.
Yeah, it's a terrible ending.
We were talking about like the heroism and stuff of kind of the
Bleak.
remake when it's a foreign movie being remade into America. This is a
Mhm.
remake of an older movie where that it does have a lot of those heroic moments like we talked about, but then the ending is like pretty fucking sad.
Yeah, it's actually a really bleak ending of everyone dies, it appears.
Yeah, like this is it's not an uplifting ending like it would have been if it cut before the credits, right? I mean,
Yeah.
uh and that's kind of like that again. If this was uh trying a movie trying to make it into Hollywood or something, maybe we wouldn't have expected to see that, right? Like something that was from before. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's a contrast there of the insomnia thing.
Yeah, that's true. It is actually a bleaker ending than the original. And it's kind of weird. Like nowadays, they probably would have avoided that because otherwise you could leave it open for a sequel.
Right.
But this kind of closes the door on that. Um, yeah, I didn't, I honestly could have done without those scenes. Felt kind of unnecessary.
They
Um,
did feel very cheap too. Um,
yeah.
they didn't particularly feel anywhere near the quality of the rest of the movie, which I don't want to say anything bad about found footage, but it did feel weird to have a sudden shift to kind of what felt like low quality pseudo found footage stuff um
Yeah.
at the end. Obviously it's like not as high stakes, right? Like the movie's over, so I would be very unsurprised if that cost a very small amount of money to make and they just wanted to tack it on at the end. But
Yeah.
I guess you can't really blame them for throwing something random on at the end. But what I kind of would have liked. I mean, I know it's not entirely fair because we just said that in Insomnia having the heroic ending was silly, but I kind of would have liked the heroic ending in this one.
Yeah, or just at least the ambiguity of it. Like people die,
Yeah,
people sacrifice, but like, and who knows what they're gonna find? They could just all starve to death on a and cannibalize each other on a boat. In theory, like you never know.
yeah.
Um,
Now I'd watch that.
hey, there you go. That Dawn of the Dead too. But uh, yeah. I was gonna say that I think this movie also like the bleak ending kind of plays into the themes, which I feel like this movie's more about like dealing with death. And it kind of has like a more personal that aspect of the movie is like pretty well done as compared to the original, I think. Where like I said with the dad and the daughter and like dealing and I don't know, like characters actually do have to deal with their loved ones dying and stuff like that. Um, I that does happen in the original, but like it just didn't connect with me as much, personally, I guess. But that
Yeah,
seemed to be like a main theme that like James Gunn was interested in when writing it, maybe.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. In the original, there is the moment when like one of the guys buries another guy, or maybe they kind of all bury him in like the like those little parts of the mall that have like the little bit of greenery and
Yes,
they like
yeah,
bury
yeah.
him in
The
there.
annoying guy.
Yeah, um
And then
and
the pilot dies later on too. But
right.
sorry.
No, yeah, yeah. And And so there's like those moments of that, but it certainly, I think you're right. It uh, is maybe more impactful in some of those moments here. Although I will say, like at the very beginning, when uh, Anna's like boyfriend or husband or something gets like eaten alive in front of her,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
it never really. I don't think it really ever addresses that well enough.
No, it never comes up. It seems like they have a happy marriage. They're banging. It's sexy. They're having a good night, and then yeah, she never reckons with that at all. So
Yeah,
yeah.
which like there can be some symbolism of like you have to put away your trauma. It's like in Full Metal Jacket, right? Like there's the idea that like um what's his face, the Joker,
Pile. Oh,
when so Pyle kills himself, and Joker kind of has to reckon with that. But he goes away to Vietnam, so he really never does reckon with that, right? And we never really see the emotional consequences of that, because there's an idea there that maybe he just has to push, like when you're in war, right, or you're
you have
going
to.
out to war, you can't, right? And so maybe that's part of the idea there for her, is like she can't do that.
Mm,
She can't reckon with that because she just has to survive, right? Like survival first. But then it is
right.
like not balanced with other characters having more reckon. So I don't know if that's really the intended symbolism here, or not. But
Yeah. I see what you mean. I think it just seemed like it was short shrifted a little bit,
yeah, that's
but
I would not be surprised if it wasn't actually as symbolic as like
yeah,
maybe Kubrick's.
that I think that's a generous interpretation.
Yeah. Speaking of though, just self plug here. If you haven't seen, last week we made a Kubrick tier list movie. Wait, podcast episode.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah, check it out on the YouTube. You can we got a visual too, so you can see our tier list as we're making it.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but sorry, anything else to say about Dawn of the Dead? I mean, we'll do our plugs a lot
I
at the
don't
end.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think I pretty much said all I want. It's interesting. I think part of what I liked about it is that it's so different from the original, the opposite of Insomnia. I like that they take it in their own direction. It feels like James Gunn kind of had like his own ideas, his own spin on it, and he took it in a new direction. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It's pretty chaotic. It's not necessarily like going to be one of my favorite movies of all time or anything like that, but I thought it was an enjoyable thrill ride of a zombie movie. And if we want to give ratings, I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5. But
Nice, yeah. I enjoyed this one a lot too. I did. Now you gave your rating. I think you liked this better than the original.
I did. I gave the original 3 stars. Yeah,
Yeah. And
I know. Sacrilegious. I feel a bit like a heathen, but that's okay. The
you know
zombie
what?
nerds will come for my neck. It's okay.
um, I I also liked this one, but not as much as the original. But I did give this one 3.5 stars out of 5 as well. Uh, this one again, yeah, like I mean, you said it right there. Uh, it felt exciting and thrilling, and I think it was a good new interpretation, right, or a uh, new way to innovate on the idea of mall zombies, right? That's kind of like the idea here. And
Yeah.
uh and this is a different type of remake than certainly than what we got in Insomnia, where it's not trying to do the same thing. And it's made a lot later, right? I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
kind of, it's not just a quick turnaround thing, right? It's um 30 whatever years later, and almost 30 years later,
Yeah.
28 years. Wait, whoa.
26.
Oh, God,
Close.
close.
Well, it's
Um,
funny because 28 years later is actually coming out. Oh, it's coming out 23 years after the original. Never mind.
and they should have waited just a bit.
Yeah, they gotta cash in. They gotta cash in.
Uh, but yeah, so it's a very different type of remake here, and I'm glad that we explored two different types of remakes here. And I think in a way they kind of represent both ends of the spectrum kind of well, where in one you have like kind of the Hollywoodization of uh
Foreign
non-English
movie.
movies.
Yeah.
And here you have kind of the revitalization or the reimagining of an older movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's definitely interesting that it's Dawn of the Dead in like a post 28 Days Later world. I think this movie does show the influence of 28 Days Later a lot.
Yeah, so much so that, like I said, I kind of forgot that it was that 28 days later even had the running zombies. But yeah, um, that's just me being bad at my podcast job here. Um, but and so the recap here, uh, we'll see if it agrees with us, right? I mean, we like this quite a bit better than the Insomnia remake, and I would say generally maybe this type of remake is more favorable for me as well. I don't know if you,
Yeah, I just think a remake should try to be different from the original. I feel like there's usually I don't find much of a point in just remaking it with very minor differences. I'm like, switch it up, change it, because you always have the original.
yeah,
I'm not some kind of like a purist. Even, I mean, I have a 2001 poster right behind me. I even don't mind 2010. It's obviously not as good as 2001, but I'm like, well, yeah, they did a different thing, and it's a decent movie. It doesn't offend me or anything like that. So I'm glad that the Dawn of the Dead remake went in its own direction and tried something different, while obviously not, being disrespectful to the original or anything like that. So, yeah,
yeah,
it felt inspired.
right, and not replica or something.
Yes, yeah,
With that being said, I guess also the American remakes can there's an argument there that can open up uh the American or also just the like scene for scene kind of remakes like Psycho and stuff. It can open up the movie to a wider audience and then maybe they can
right.
check out the original, but I don't know. I
That's
do
true
agree that
because
in general I like when it innovates more.
that's true because without the remake of Insomnia, would I have watched the original Insomnia? Who knows? Maybe it would have been more forgotten to history, and maybe I wouldn't have seen it. So you're right.
Yeah.
That could be a positive thing.
Yeah. But real quick, the rating recap for Dawn of the Dead 2004 is a 3.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which fits pretty close to where we said. A 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. Again, pretty close. A 77% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 77% audience score as well. So, 0% discrepancy in its audience and critical response there. Much lower critical response in Rotten Tomatoes than the Insomnia remake, which is interesting. But it averages out to a 7.35 out of 10, bringing it a good number of points lower than the Insomnia remake. So we are, uh, you could say, in the minority here, perhaps.
Yeah, I guess so. But I do think also zombie movies are maybe not usually not as critically beloved as like a crime thriller. It's
Yeah.
definitely a genre that's not as respected by general audiences or, you know, critics in general, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But I don't know if you
Um,
want to look up the Rotten Tomatoes for the original Dawn of the Dead,
oh,
but the
shoot. Yeah.
but the Letterboxd for the original Dawn of the Dead, Letterboxd average is 4.0 out of 5, very high. And it has a 7.8 out of 10 on uh IMDb. So higher rated than any of the movies we've talked about today.
That's pretty good. Also, I think, well, so the Rotten Tomatoes, ooh, the Rotten Tomatoes has a 92% score, critical score, and a 90% audience score. So those are pretty good scores right there.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think there is kind of like a general sentiment that the original, I think like some people, I don't think it's uncommon to see arguments that it might be the best zombie movie ever made. Uh,
definitely. Yeah.
which I can definitely see. I think I do prefer Night of the Living Dead. Um, and I don't know if I'd go as far as saying it's the best one ever made, but I can see why people would think that and why people would argue that. So
Yeah. I would go with probably either Day of the Dead or 28 Days Later, to be honest. And speaking of that, in a few weeks, or actually in more like a month, we're going to be talking about 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later in anticipation of 28 Years Later. So that'll be an exciting episode. But that'll be not wait, 19.5 or
uh,
20.5?
that'll be 20.5. This is episode 19 right now.
This is episode 19. Okay,
I think so.
I think so. All right, I think so. So that means uh next week we have kind of an exciting episode. We're going to be doing another tier list, this time for Star Wars. So we're gonna have the original, well, the core nine movies, and also Rogue One and Solo. So we're gonna be making a tier list for that. Obviously, Star Wars, for the past, whatever 10 years has had some of the most toxic discourse on the internet, but we will not be like that. I think we'll be a lot more normal and chill about things. So if you want to hear people be normal and not complete freaks about Star Wars, that'll be a good video to watch.
Yeah, y'all hear us talk about crap all the time. We're totally normal.
Yeah,
So
completely normal. Also, this is episode 18. So 18.5 will be Star Wars, 19.5 will be uh
28
28 days and
days
28
slash years,
weeks.
or
Yeah.
yeah, weeks.
And then 28 years will probably be number 20.5. Man, this is confusing, especially when I don't have it up.
We've got what we were saying here is we've got a lot lined up for y'all. So
Yeah, we got an exciting slate. But
yeah, we
we got to
can't
figure
pick this
out.
one.
Yeah, it can't. We don't know what's happening after our Star Wars episode and before our 28 days and weeks episode. We have a regular episode. This is such a weird format for a podcast. These half episodes. I don't know. I don't know how we came to this,
Yeah.
but
Well, you know what? It's funny because originally we were like, should we just do it every other week? And so, a little bit of background for any of you mind your movies
the hardcore
enthusiasts
fans,
out there. Yeah, the hardcore fans will know. But originally we
the
just wanted to do it
minders.
every other episode. And so we were like, or every other week. So we were like, well, okay, so our full episodes will be every other week. And we'll do like we'll do this cup thing, the category cup, and we were having a lot of fun with that idea. But then we were having so much fun with the idea we wanted to talk about movies even more frequently, but we didn't know if we wanted to really do two movies every single week. So we were like, we could do what was our first one? It was
The substance.
The Substance, because it had just come out. I think we both
Yeah,
saw it in theaters. We were like, we have to talk about this on the podcast.
yeah,
And since then we haven't actually missed a half episode. We
yeah,
originally it wasn't like we were gonna do them every time, but
yeah,
I mean, why the hell not? It's a lot of fun.
yeah. And I enjoyed the tier list episode a lot. So hopefully the Star Wars one will be good too. And we
Yeah.
have that because also it's nice to, I've already seen all the Star Wars movies. So
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things is that we really enjoy these category episodes a lot, but they are, I mean, watching movies is a lot of fun, but preparing for the podcast and I mean, it takes a while for us to record these
yeah,
things.
it'd be too much to do a full episode every week, I think.
Yeah.
So
But,
this is a nice to solve for that
yeah.
problem.
And it gives us like some creative options for those other times, right? Like we can do the tier list, we can do a new movie, we've done just movies that we've kind of recently seen.
Yeah, we
We've
just did
done
House just for fun, just because it's like such an awesome, crazy movie.
Yeah, right. And so it gives us also space for like, if you all suggest stuff, we can do stuff then. So
Yeah,
um,
true.
that's kind of where this came from, but it is a really weird format at this point when
Yeah,
we're just sticking with
because we're like, oh, this is episode 18, but technically it's like number 35 or something.
it. Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Anyway,
Anyways, let's
now
see what we're doing.
it's time for the category cup. I'll be pulling again. You can see on the YouTube, I'm not cheating. Here we go. I pulled budget under $1 million.
Whoa, under a million.
Very cool. I guess the idea
Interesting.
is low budget movies, but we had figured it was good to put the specific line of $1 million
Yeah.
dollars.
I
Um,
wonder how many budget options, like I know for some of these, for example, we have a lot of decades in the cup. I wonder if we have other budget things. I'm not sure.
I know I put this in here. I put budget under $1 million and I put budget over $100 million. So
Nice.
those are the
Nice.
only things I put relate because I was like,
Cool.
those are kind of the extreme ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
It'd be weird to be like, oh, 20 to $25 million. Like that'd be weird. But it's kind of
um,
interesting. I thought it would be interesting, sort of, maybe like I don't know. The original Evil Dead might have slightly more than $1 million budget.
it might be
But
close.
there's Clerks, there's El Mariachi, the real shoestring With Primer, there's another one.
Yeah,
Um,
lots of great options. $1 million is, you know, money can really help you make a great movie, but there are some amazing low budget movies,
oh
and they can
yeah,
be very profitable too.
oh yeah. Also, Pi, which is a movie we've talked about in the past because you have a pie thing in your background of a pie sign. So that'd be kind of fun to cover. And I think that has a pretty low budget.
Little side note here. Speaking of budget of movies, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I watched Transformers 4 kind of recently. I didn't mention it because well, I'm not recommending this to anyone. It is the budget for that movie is over $200 million. And it is wow. Well, it's
Wow.
the biggest waste of money I think that might have ever happened.
Damn. I have not seen that, and I am happy about that. I will say following is the Christopher Nolan movie, that would be an option. I got a pretty good
Um
list here.
yeah.
Eraserhead, which we've already covered, is also an option.
Do you know One Cut of the Dead?
Yes.
That's been on my list for a long time, and I'm sure that has a pretty low budget and kind of fits our zombie of the dead thoughts.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if we want to stick with zombie related things. According to IMDb, the budget is estimated to be 3 million yen.
So
Oh, on
saying
trivia, it says cost $25,000 to make and
okay.
made over 25 million.
See, I wow, that's cool. $25,000. See,
Yeah,
like I know we have $1 million to work with here, but I'm like, how can I like should I do paranormal activity for 60 grand? Like
yeah, yeah.
I'm like
I would say go super low.
I'm like budgeting here. I'm like, how many $60,000 movies can I fit into $1 million?
Oh, that'd be funny. We could pick as like how many can we fit in there?
Oh, that would be a cool like yeah, cool
Oh,
draft or something up
a
to $1 million.
draft.
Yeah. Oh man, we
Oh,
haven't
that's
done
a
one of
good
those in a while.
idea. That is a really good idea.
Yeah, you draft up to $1 million. That'd be cool. That'd be awesome.
That would be a great idea. We should do that for a half episode, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fun. And we're back. Uh we're looking at under $1 million movies. I'm getting real excited because I ended up going with Oren Pelly's 2007 Paranormal Activity, uh the most
Uh,
profitable like movie of all time by like gross profit or something. I forget the wording. I'll figure it out before next episode, but we're watching it for it.
yeah, and I've never seen Paranormal Activity or any of the Paranormal Activity movies, so I'm probably gonna binge the entire series. Uh, I've never. This is a blind spot for me, and now I'll be watching at least the original. And yeah, there are a lot of great choices for this. I'm gonna give shout outs right now. This is the time to do it. Shout outs to Stranger Than Paradise, Man Bites Dog, and Slacker. Those were all tough to not pick. Also, Eraserhead, which we've already covered on like episode like 2 or 3 of the show. So those are all great movies. And Slacker was a big influence on the movie that I picked, which is Clerks. Kevin Smith's debut movie made for like $27,000, all funded on credit cards. And yeah, also Kevin Smith, kind of an iconic podcaster he's become, and quite a strange career he's made for himself. So yeah, I think that that'll be fun. Super, definitely a movie that shows that kind of anyone can make a movie. A bunch of people get together with their friends and make something. So I think we got two pretty different, unique, low budget movies and influential.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's always impressive to me just what people can do with such limited money, right? There's so many cool options for movies that are made under $1 million, and when you compare them to some of the movies that are made for $200 million and stuff, like you can get so much enjoyment out of things that are made on 60 grand or whatever, right? And
or less.
or
Even like
way less. Yeah.
El Mariachi, Robert Rodriguez's first movie, is like $7,000, and
Yeah.
it's impressive.
There's a Terror Vision put out a Blu-ray set of called Lost in the 80s that is for like ultra low budget movies that Joe Zazzo made when he was a kid, who's now like a um uh kind of a villain in B movies, and he doesn't really make movies anymore, but he's in a lot. And and they're like I've been watching through them, and they are, shot on video. They're like, it's made by a kid, made on like no money by a kid, but they're so fun and so enjoyable. And they're not
Yeah.
particularly good cinema, but a lot of fun, right?
Yeah, actually, Coralie Farja, the director of The Substance, had the Letterboxd YouTube channel posted a little movie that she made when she was like maybe like 12 years old, and it's like a version of Star Wars, and it's pretty cool. You can watch it on the Letterboxd YouTube channel. I think it's called like La Guerre des Étoiles, or it's like Star Wars in French is the title basically. So yeah,
Yeah,
this will be a cool topic.
yeah, it will. And I think we'll have a lot to say about these two movies. Um, and make sure you join in with us next time. And you've got a couple weeks to watch both these. They're both uh they're somewhat accessible. I don't know. You'll find them.
Yeah, you can
They're
rent
not
them or stream them somewhere.
yeah, they're
Apparently all the
online.
paranormal activities are on MGM Plus, which I don't think a single human actually has, but they're there. Maybe you can do a free trial.
Yeah. Uh, but anyways, that's what we're up to in 2 weeks. Again, just a reminder, next week we'll be doing a Star Wars tier list. Make sure to join us for that. If you haven't caught up on who am I talking to? You guys have all seen all the Star Wars movies, maybe. I don't know. I have
Yeah,
to watch
definitely.
Solo. I've never seen Solo.
There
That's
you
the only
go.
one I've never seen.
There you
I've
go.
heard
I've
that's a
seen it.
good thing, but
No, it's all right. It's not bottom tier.
okay. All
Shot
right, that's
by
good.
Bradford Young, great cinematographer.
Excellent. Well, then there's hope. Um,
A new hope.
there we go. So make sure you're joining us for all those things. And if you want to make sure that you're staying fully up to date with all the stuff we're doing, following us on Letterboxd is a great way to see all of our reviews. You can follow the Mind Your Movies podcast. You can follow me and Shane. We're linked in the Mind Your Movies podcast description, as well as all of our other social media. So you can find our Instagram, our Blue Sky. You can find our YouTube channel and all that stuff right linked in Letterboxd.
Yep. So I think that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. See ya.